Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 85. 85 The Azure Emperor unleashes his might. 3. As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind blew out of the royal mansion. Eunuch Lee was so frightened that he almost knelt on the ground. He raised his old face, which was covered in sweat, and looked at the purple-robed man standing in the void. The man's silver hair was like silk, and he was extremely handsome. His phoenix eyes contained a vicious aura as he looked down at Eunuch Li. Bai Yan. The two words that came out of his mouth were emotionless, and a bone-chilling coldness rose on his proud face. The Empress didn't seem like she would grant Bai Yan Suanji's wish. Therefore, the Bai family's young miss mentioned in the imperial decree, could not possibly be her. Congratulations, Prince Kang. Eunuch Lee smiled awkwardly. The Empress has indeed betrothed Bai Yan to Prince Kang. However, Bai Yan's reputation is bad and she can only be a concubine. Princess Kang has someone else and she is many times better than Bai Yan. Oh. The corners of Dick Kang's lips faintly curled up into a murderous arc. Then does this king know who the woman who is several times better than Bai Yan is? He, that lady is the pearl of the Bai family, Bai Ji. Bai Ji and Prince Kang are a perfect match made in heaven. Coupled with the Empress's arranged marriage, they will definitely be the envy of many. Eunuch Lee did not sense the anger in Dick Kang's words as he spoke with a smile on his face. But unknowingly, he was already sweating profusely. The temperature around Dick Kang became colder and colder. The two guards who were originally guarding the door immediately knelt down and shivered. Eunuch Lee still didn't know what had happened, so why did the two guards suddenly kneel down? He laughed drily. Prince Kang, hurry up and accept the decree. I still need to return and report to the Empress. Dick Kang's eyes were domineering and he looked down on the world. Luhuo Kingdom does not have an Empress. Eunuch Lee was dumbfounded by these inexplicable words. Could the Azure Emperor be stupid? He actually said that Luhuo Kingdom doesn't have an Empress. Prince Kang, the Empress is in the Fengluan Palace, how could she not be there? Eunuch Lee wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said embarrassedly. The two guards raised their heads and looked at Eunuch Lee sarcastically. Eunuchs were so stupid that they didn't even understand the meaning of the king. As expected. Dick Kang's phoenix eyes were slightly raised and his face was expressionless. Since this prince said that there will be no empress, then from now on, there will be no empress in Luhuo Kingdom. Hearing this, Eunuch Lee's face was filled with shock. Did the Azure Emperor want to depose the empress? Did he have the right? The few silver wolves that were carrying the throne descended from the sky and obediently squatted in front of Dick Kang. Dick Kang slowly walked up and took a seat with large strides. His voice was cold and carried an insufferably domineering air. Take him to the imperial court. The silver wolf at the front raised its claws and picked up Eunuch Lee, who was kneeling on the ground. Immediately, their figures were like lightning, and they quickly shot in the direction of the palace. In the imperial court, several ministers were reporting on the recent national situation. Nangong Yuan sat on his dragon throne, and his face turned impatient as the group of old men continued to chatter on. You don't need to report these small matters to me. If you really have nothing to report, then withdraw from the court. The ministers stopped talking and helplessly retreated to the distance. Nangong Yuan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that no one was reporting to him. Just as he was about to order the court to withdraw, a loud bang was heard. A person fell from the roof of a house and landed in the hall. The ministers were stunned. Isn't Suanji Eunuch Lee, who is always by the Empress's side? What is he doing here? And it seemed to have been smashed down by someone. Chapter 86. 86 Bai Yan is this king's woman. 1. Nangong Yuan suddenly stood up from his dragon throne with an ugly expression. What's going on? As soon as he finished speaking, his heart suddenly stopped. A beam of silver light fell from the sky along with a wolf's howl. It was a man of unparalleled beauty. He sat on the throne, like a heavenly emperor above tens of thousands of people, ruling the world and looking down on all living beings. Her long silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her purple robe was like mist, but it couldn't hide her stunning beauty. His phoenix eyes were slanted upwards, light and arrogant, a pair of dark eyes containing a bloodthirsty light, red lips like flames, slightly hooked into a soul-stirring smile. The man's smile was filled with killing intent. Under this strong killing intent, one could not help but lower their head. Azure Emperor, why have you come? Nangong Yuan's initial anger turned into shock. He glanced at Eunuch Li, who was lying on the ground, and frowned. Could it be that this bastard had provoked a killing god like the Azure Emperor? The pack of wolves landed in the hall and lay on the ground. Then, the man who had been sitting on the throne slowly got up and walked down with one step. With one hand behind his back, he had an imposing aura. Do you really not know why I am here? All the ministers were stunned. It was no secret in Luhuo Kingdom that the emperor favored Prince Kang. However, this was the first time they had seen Prince Kang dare to speak to His Majesty in such a manner. Nangong Yuan furrowed his brows and looked a little unhappy. However, he didn't dare to show it and had to keep a smile on his face. The Azure Emperor has never come to this morning assembly. Now that you have come, has anyone offended you? The Azure Emperor raised his eyes and glanced at Nangong Yuan. Do you really not know, or are you just pretending not to know? Without your permission, would the Empress dare to give this king a marriage? What? Nangong Yuan's face turned pale with fright as a layer of anger appeared on his chest. That damned woman, she actually dared to bestow a marriage to the Azure Emperor. Even he, the emperor of a country, did not dare to bestow a marriage to Prince Kang. Someone, go and capture the Empress for this one. Nangong Yuan's voice was cold and deep as he was indeed enraged. All the ministers could feel the emperor's rage and lowered their heads, not daring to say a word. After a while, the graceful and noble Empress slowly walked in under the lead of another eunuch. She looked at Eunuch Li, who had fallen to the ground and could not get up. Then, she looked at Dikang, who had his back to her, and her heart suddenly thumped. Chinqi pays her respects to your majesty. Ning Dai retracted her gaze and slowly walked in front of Nangong Yuan. She bent down and said, May I know why your majesty has called this minister's concubine over? Empress, I heard that you have arranged a marriage for Prince Kang. Nangong Yuan's face darkened. Hearing this, Ning Dai raised her head in surprise. She bit her lip tightly and said, Your Majesty, I've only decided to liven up the Azure Emperor's residence after seeing that the Azure Emperor has led a life of hardship. Furthermore, Bai Ji of the Bai family is not only beautiful, she is also virtuous and virtuous. Who else can the Azure Emperor's concubine be apart from her? Nangong Yuan's anger grew and he said coldly, Empress, it seems that Zhen has indulged you too much. Your Majesty. Ning Dai was so frightened that she knelt down. This minister's concubine is doing this out of helplessness. Recently, Prince Kang has been too close to Bai Yan and she has even lost her chastity and is unable to become a consort. However, this minister's concubine cannot bear to separate Prince Kang and Bai Yan, so this minister's concubine has allowed Bai Yan to enter the prince's residence as a concubine. The two sisters can even imitate a concubine and serve the same husband. Wouldn't that be better? Her words made it seem as if she was doing this for the reputation of Dikang and the imperial family, and had nothing to do with selfishness. Chapter 87. 87 Bai Yan is this king's woman, too. When the ministers heard the empress's words, they began to discuss among themselves. Previously, they had heard that during the Lan family's welcoming banquet, Prince Kang and Bai Yan had been exchanging flirtatious looks. Now, it seemed that there was really an affair between the two of them. However, this Bai Yan already had a bad reputation, so how could she be worthy of the Azure Emperor? Prince Kang, this Wufu. Nangong Yuan was in a difficult position as he raised his head to look at the man who was standing high above them. Dick Kang's cold eyes finally turned to Ning Dai. He raised his chin slightly and looked down at the woman kneeling below him. A daughter raised by a woman who took advantage of an orphan's dowry is worthy of the words virtuous and virtuous. The man's voice was gloomy, causing Ning Dai's body to tremble. She knew better than anyone that the Bai family was greedy for Lan Yu's dowry. All these years, a large portion of the gold and silver jewelry that Bai Ruo had given her was obtained from that dowry. But what did this have to do with Bai Ji? Ning Dai laughed drily. Your Highness must have misunderstood something. Ger's character is trustworthy. Your Highness can rest assured. In this Luhuo kingdom, besides Ruoer, Ger is obviously the most outstanding woman. At this moment, Ning Dai was only focused on boasting about Bai Ji and did not notice Nangong Yuan's ugly expression. Other than Bai Ruo, Bai Ji was the most outstanding? Then what were the princesses of the imperial family? Can't she be compared to the two girls from the Bai family? Have all the women in the world died? How can these two women, who are full of misdeeds, be called the most outstanding women? Dick Kang sneered. From what this prince can see, even the bitch Qian is stronger than them. Ning Dai's face turned pale. In front of his majesty, this Azure Emperor dared to not give him any face. She gritted her teeth. Isn't it too much for the Azure Emperor to insult two weak women like this? What's wrong with Ger? It's better than Bai Yan. Dick Kang laughed. His smile was very cold, as if he was stepping on the corpses on the ground as he walked towards Ning Dai. His awe-inspiring aura made Ning Dai's face pale. First, this king's marriage is not up to you to decide. He was the king of the demon realm, and a mere human dared to decide for him the future of the demon realm. Secondly, to me Bai Ji is no different from a female dog in heat. If you dare to offend her again, this king doesn't mind finding a male dog to mate with her. Ning Dai was frightened by Dick Kang's words and her lips trembled slightly. She had never thought that she would hear such filthy words from a man's mouth. The third days. Dick Kang stopped in his tracks. With a domineering expression, he looked disdainfully at the kneeling Ning Dai. Bai Yan's man is this prince. Boom. As if struck by lightning, everyone was shocked silly by Dick Kang's words. He was Bai Yan's man? What did he mean? 6 years ago, this king was plotted against and was drugged. I happened to meet Bai Yan and, without caring about her wishes, forcefully violated her. The corners of Dick Kang's lips curled up into an arc, so in the future, if anyone dares to slander her again, this prince will hunt them down for 1,000 miles and will not rest until they are dead. 1,000-mile pursuit, not stopping until one of them was dead. What kind of domineering aura could make a man say such words? However, not a single person doubted Dick Kang. This man would definitely do what he said. Ning Dai's body went soft and she collapsed onto the ground. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and her pale face was filled with despair. How was that possible? The man who had eloped with Bai Yan back then was Dick Kang? The bastard child in her stomach was also his. Chapter 88. 88 Crippled Empress, 1. Elope. Ning Dai seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, and she immediately jumped up from the ground. Prince Kang, you said that the wild man back then was you. Then who was the one who eloped with Bai Yan? In these few years, Dick Kang had always been in Luhuo Kingdom? If he was really that wild man, then who was the one who had eloped? Did you all personally see Bai Yan eloping with someone? Dick Kang's eyes swept over and the corners of his lips raised into a bloodthirsty arc. All of the officials were stunned. Indeed, back then, they had only heard the Bai family's people claim that Bai Yan had eloped with someone else, but no one had seen it with their own eyes. Was there another reason for this? Enough. Nangong Yuan slammed the table and stood up. Empress, don't you think you've embarrassed yourself enough? Immediately go and reflect on your mistakes. Without my order, you are not allowed to take a single step out of Fengluen Palace. Ning Dai's face was a little pale. She lowered her head and bowed, Chinky will obey your majesty. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, a domineering cold voice came from behind her. The matter of bestowing a marriage upon this prince, is it just like this? Nangang Yuan was taken aback. Prince Kang, the Empress is the crown prince's mother after all. If we depose the Empress, I'm afraid it would be disadvantageous to the crown prince. What does it have to do with this king? The man's lips curled up in a cruel and merciless manner. What does your Luhuo kingdom's crown prince do to him? Even if Luhuo kingdom was destroyed, it would not be related to him. Nangang Yuan gently closed his eyes. After a long time, he opened them again and said coldly, Men, drag the crippled empress to the cold palace and never let her step out again. No one is allowed to visit. At that moment, Ning Dai staggered and almost fell to the ground. She turned around in disbelief and screamed, Your Majesty! His Majesty would actually listen to Prince Kang's orders. How could this be possible? What are you waiting for? Drag the crippled empress away. Nangang Yuan waved his hand impatiently before turning to the Azure Emperor. Azure Emperor, is this a good punishment? Good. Dikang gave a cold laugh. The Empress dared to decide on his marriage, so how could a deposed Empress calm his anger? Therefore, he withdrew his gaze coldly, flicked his sleeves, and walked to the throne. He then sat down with large strides. To the Lan family. The pack of wolves howled, lifted the throne, and leaped into the air, transforming into a silver beam of light that shot into the sky not far away. As he watched Dikang leave, Nangang Yuan finally heaved a sigh of relief. He did not know when, but his forehead was already covered in sweat. Nangang Yuan seemed to have noticed the shocked expressions on the ministers' faces. He slowly stood up and said coldly, Withdraw the court. Then, he left in a hurry, not saying a word from beginning to end. However, after today, the news of Nangang Yuan's fear of Dikang would spread throughout the entire Luhuo kingdom. At the same time, there would also be Baiji's fall and reputation that would be destroyed. Just before the court was dismissed, the news that Baiji was about to become the Kang princess consort had already spread throughout the entire Luhuo kingdom. Many women were envious, jealous, and hateful of her, wishing they could replace her. But who asked this Baiji to have a powerful father and a sister who was the crown prince's consort? Just based on these two relationships, she was the well-known Kang Wangfei. At this moment, in the Lan family, Bai Yan was leaning on a long bench in the pavilion. There was a messenger pigeon on her finger and a note was tied to the leg of this messenger pigeon. Bai Yan tore the note down and saw a line of words written on the letter in a crooked manner. Mother, baby heard that father is going to marry the bad woman of the Bai family. He even wants that kind of bad woman, he must have bad taste. Baby still feels that a godfather is better, Yingluo. The signature on the letter was the cutest and most handsome baby. This little fellow didn't allow him to look for her recently, so he could only send her a message. Chapter 89 Chapter 89 Concubine. At this moment, Lan Xiaoun hurriedly ran over from the front. As she was running too fast, she almost stumbled and fell to the ground. Fortunately, the servant girl beside her caught her in time. Sister. Lan Xiaoun's hand was holding onto the long pillar, and her little face was red. Have you heard the rumors outside? Bai Yan raised her hand and kept the note in her hand, the corners of her lips rising. You're talking about the matter of Baiji becoming the Kang princess consort. So you already know. Lan Xiaoun was a little angry. That B**tch Baiji is just relying on her sister who is the crown prince's consort. At the banquet, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Prince Kang was interested in you. She must have snatched Prince Kang away on purpose to embarrass you. Cousin, we can't let that little slut off so easily. Bai Yan smiled. The back of her hand lifted slightly, supporting her head. Yun do you think that Kang Emperor Suanji is someone who would be controlled? If she didn't know Dikang's identity, perhaps she wouldn't have thought much about it. Chen was a fox. If Dikang was his biological father, then he must be from the Fox clan as well. Moreover, Bai Yan's identity was not simple. To control such a man, was the royal family capable of doing so? Cousin. Lan Xiaoun stomped her foot and said resentfully, no matter how strong Prince Kang is, he is just a prince with a different surname. He might not even obey the Empress's imperial decree. So, I think we should find Bai Ji to settle the score. It would be best to cripple her and see if the imperial clan would marry a cripple to Prince Kang. All these years, old Master Lan had always been bedridden and Lan Xiaoun had also been bullied by Bai Ji. How could she let Bai Ji have her wish? There's no need to look for her. Bai Yan smiled sweetly. She will come looking for you very soon. However, just as these words fell, a sharp voice cut through the sky, causing Bai Yan's willow-like brows to gently furrow. The Empress decree has arrived. Why did the Empress come to the Lan family to pass on an imperial decree? Lan Xiaoun said in an unpleasant tone. In her eyes, those who were in cahoots with the Bai family were not good people. Bai Yan slowly got up and lazily stretched her waist. Let's go. Won't we know when we go and take a look? At this moment, apart from the eunuch who had come to deliver the decree, Bai Ji was also standing in the Lan family courtyard with an angry look on her face. Before coming to the Lan family, Bai Ji had already met the eunuch who was delivering the decree. From the eunuch's mouth, she found out that the Empress not only wanted her to be Kang Wangfei, but also wanted Bai Yan to enter the Wang residence as a concubine. How could a woman who had lost her virginity become Prince Kang's woman? She was not even qualified to be a concubine. Hualala. Under Master Ian's lead, everyone from the Lan family walked out of the hall. As one of the three great aristocratic families, Master Lan did not need to kneel in front of the eunuch who was delivering the decree. He only needed to cup his fists as a form of respect. On the other hand, the servants of the Lan family knelt down in unison to show their respect. Old Master Lan, where's Bai Yan? The young eunuch pulled out his sharp voice and said, this eunuch is here this time to follow the Empress's orders and pass on an imperial edict to Bai Yan. Immediately let Bai Yan come out to receive the edict. Master Ian's brows furrowed tightly. This little eunuch, can you reveal the contents of the imperial decree? Old Master, this is a great thing. Quickly get Bai Yan to come out and receive the edict. Wasn't that so? For a woman who had lost her virginity to be a concubine of the imperial family, wasn't that a great thing? Old Master Lan gave a look to the person beside him, planning to get him to call Bai Yan over first. Who knew that before that person could make a move, he saw Bai Yan who had arrived late. Chapter 90. 90 Concubine, 2. Bai Ji saw the woman walking towards her and snorted coldly, glaring at her with hatred. Grandpa! Lan Xiaoun quickly ran in front of old Master Lan. She turned her gaze and saw Bai Ji standing beside the eunuch. She was instantly furious. Baizi, you little b*tch, who allowed you to come to my Lan family? Get out! Bai Ji took 2 steps forward, puffed out her chest, and said arrogantly, why can't I come to the Lan family? In the future, the entire Luhuo kingdom will belong to my sister and brother-in-law. Similarly, the Lan family's territory will also be mine. On the contrary, if you continue to provoke me, I will get my men to throw you out of Luhuo kingdom. Lan Xiaoun's little face was completely red as she glared at Bai Ji with resentment. She had 1,000 words to say, but in the end, they were all summarized into 3 words, shameless. Bai Yan glanced at Lan Xiaoun and the corners of her lips curled up into a slight arc. Although Lan Xiaoun's personality was very similar to that little demoness from the Holy Land, in reality, the difference between the two of them was too great. If that little demoness was here, Baiji would definitely go crazy from her scolding. She was starting to miss that little devil. Baiji disdained to fight with Lan Xiaoun. Her eyes filled with anger turned towards the young eunuch. Why aren't you quickly announcing the imperial decree? Hearing this, the young eunuch cleared his throat, passed down the Empress's imperial decree. The daughter of the Bai family, Bai Yan, is an alluring beauty and has even received special treatment from Prince Kang. She is hereby bestowed with the title of concubine and will enter the residence on a date. After he finished announcing the imperial decree, he laughed twice. Congratulations, old man, congratulations, Miss Bai Yan. Oh, that's right, Her Majesty the Empress has also asked me to pass a few words to Miss Bai Yan. In the future, when you enter the Kang Emperor's residence, the third Miss of the Bai family will be your master. You need to pay attention to your own attitude and cannot overstep third Miss Bai's boundaries. Also, for the sake of the Kang Emperor's health, you can only persuade the Kang Emperor to go to the third Miss room and not let the Kang Emperor stay overnight. The poor eunuch was still dutifully delivering the Empress's words, unaware that his master had been banished to the cold palace. Shut up. Suddenly, an angry voice sounded, and the young eunuch looked up in shock. Master Ian's fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. His face was ashen. The granddaughter of the Lan family will not stoop to the level of becoming someone's concubine. Go back immediately and ask the Empress to retract her decree. Otherwise, even if I have to fall out with the imperial family, I will never allow Yan Er to be a concubine. The little eunuch was stunned. Bai Yan had already lost her innocence. Asking her to become the Kang Emperor's concubine was already considered a high social status, yet old Master Lan had rejected it. Old Master, you're so annoying. The eunuch seemed to want to say something. However, before he could finish his sentence, the old master's furious voice rang out again. Get lost, quickly get lost. If you don't get lost, don't blame this old man for being rude. Old Master Ian's fist smashed into the tree next to him. The tree trunk trembled twice before it collapsed with a loud crash. This scared the little eunuch so much that his face turned pale. He hurriedly took the imperial decree and slipped away without looking back. Anyway, the words have already been spread, there's no need to stay here and be threatened, Yingluo. Cough cough. Master Lan clutched his chest tightly and coughed violently. Father. Grandpa. The siblings, Lan Yu and Lan Xiaoun, immediately stepped forward and hurriedly patted old Master Ian's chest to ease the anger in his heart. Grandfather. Bai Yan walked in front of old Master Lan and gently patted his back. You're already old and can't take it anymore. Don't be angry over those people. Master Lan finally calmed down. He took a deep breath and said in a stern tone, Yan Er, that day, I could tell that the relationship between you and the Azure Emperor was not simple. However, Lao Ai, the blood in your body is the blood of my Lan family. They had to obey the Lan family's rules. She would rather be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. If you wish to become the Azure Emperor's concubine, then from now on, I will no longer acknowledge you as my granddaughter. Chapter 91. 91 Men with misophobia are not to be trifled with. She would rather be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. Even if his granddaughter were to marry into an ordinary family, she would never become a concubine of the imperial family. And as long as Bai Yan was unwilling, then even if he had to stake his old life, he would not let anyone hurt the blood and bones of the Lan family. Old Master, old Madame Ian's expression changed drastically, and she glared at him reproachfully. Don't be so fierce to Yan Er. What if you scare my precious granddaughter? Maternal grandmother. Seeing old Madame Lan chiding old Master, Bai Yan laughed out softly. She raised her brows slightly and said with a strong and unyielding character, actually, maternal grandfather is right. I, Bai Yan, Not only do I not become someone's concubine, I also do not share my husband with anyone. If I really can't find someone to be with for the rest of my life, then I'd rather not marry for the rest of my life and stay in the Lan family to be filial to my grandparents for the rest of my life. These words hit the bottom of Master Ian's heart, and he couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's the granddaughter of the Lan family. If your mother had your awareness back then, these things would not have happened, Yingluo. Bai Yan touched her nose. Mother is too stupid. It's fine that she married a scumbag. She even gave all the medicinal pills that grandfather gave her to that scumbag. Old Master Ian's expression immediately changed and he glared at Bai Yan angrily. She's still your mother no matter what. No matter how many mistakes he made, he could not change this fact. You dare to call your mother stupid? Even though the old master had never mentioned forgiving Lan Yu all these years, how could there be overnight enmity between father and daughter? He was just sad and had never been angry at Lan Yu. Moreover, even if she was angry, it had already dissipated after so many years. When Bai Yan saw old Master Ian's angry attitude, the corners of her lips unconsciously curled up into an arc. This old man had a tough mouth but a soft heart. She could test his sincerity with a simple sentence. Bai Yan. Bai Ji saw that this group of people ignored her existence and stomped her foot angrily. Do you dare to disobey the Empress's imperial decree? It's already a favor for her to let you be her concubine, and you still dare to say that you'll be with her for the rest of your life. You really don't know shame. Bai Yan swept her eyes over Bai Ji and was a little surprised. Didn't Grandpa tell you to get lost? What are you still doing here? You. Bai Ji bit her lips tightly. I'm not leaving. What can you do to me? Old Master Lan snorted and his aura surged out like a swarm of bees, pressing down on Bai Ji from all directions. Bai Ji's face paled, and her lips were bleeding from her biting. You're already so old, yet you're still bullying a little girl like me. You Lan family people are really too shameless. Boom. Old Master Ian's aura transformed into a huge sword and suddenly swung down. Dust rolled out like a huge wave and in an instant, Bai Ji's body was thrown out of the door. With a bang, Bai Ji fell down the steps in a sorry state, just in front of a pair of feet. When Bai Ji got up from the ground, a beautiful and devilish face entered her sight. The man was still as perfect as ever, like a god, domineering and arrogant. Bai Ji stared at the face in front of her in a daze, so infatuated that she couldn't say a word. As long as she thought of becoming this man's princess in the future, her heart would be filled with joy. Wanjai Qian. The guard who was following behind Dikang at the side saw that Bai Ji had coincidentally hit the tip of Dikang's shoe when she landed. His voice immediately trembled as he said carefully, "Aren't we going to look for Miss Bai for this one?" Dikang's brows wrinkled up from the smell and his gaze also slowly moved to the tip of his shoes. Chapter 92. 92 Only she could scheme against Dikang. Xiaomi was speechless. Why did he feel that the matter had already exceeded their imagination? At this moment, in an antique-looking room, the man put Feng Ruking on the large carved bed. His voice was low and hoarse. He looked at the person on the bed with his arrogant eyes and sneered. Little Yan Er, now that things have come to this, are you still going to continue lying to this king? Now that the evidence was irrefutable, let's see how this woman would defend herself. Her smile was very beautiful, unparalleled in the world. Suddenly, she raised her hand and hooked it around Dikang's neck. She stood on her tiptoes and covered the man's lips. Xiao Yan Er, Qian. The man's voice was dry and hoarse. His long and narrow phoenix eyes were filled with desire as he let go of Bai Yan's lips. You asked for this, Qian. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to eat the woman in front of him up. Therefore, he did not notice the cold glint that flashed across the woman's clear eyes. Just as Dikang was a little lost in his emotions, he suddenly stopped. He raised his domineering eyes and his gaze stopped on the woman's smiling and beautiful face. He asked, "What did you do to this king just now? Didn't you want to sleep with me?" Bai Yan took the opportunity to escape from Dikang's imprisonment. She tidied up her messy hair and a smile rose from the corners of her lips. "So, I've already secretly smeared a layer of poison on my lips just now. It just so happens that that poison can make you have no reaction for 3 months. Dikang, what do you think of this gift I'm giving you?" "You don't need to thank me, you deserve this gift." Dikang's face darkened. He looked at Bai Yan's red lips and even his voice was a little hoarser than before. He gritted his teeth and asked, "You schemed against this king?" He, Dikang, had never fallen into a trap in his entire life, but in the end, he had fallen into the hands of this woman. "This isn't a scheme. It's just self-protection." Bai Yan curled the corners of her lips. "I'm good at saving people and also good at using poison. Therefore, when you first tried to do something to me, I had already prepared this poison. I wonder how this poison tastes?" This man already had an impulse in his heart, but because of the poison, his body couldn't respond. No man would be able to endure such a feeling. The smile in Bai Yan's eyes became even more apparent, carrying a hint of recklessness as she smiled and stared at the man in front of her. Dikang gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "You're the first person Qian has ever successfully schemed against this king, so, this king's decision to let you have 10 sons, this king will take it back." Bai Yan's smile became even deeper. This guy was finally planning to give up. Unfortunately, she was too optimistic. As soon as she thought of this, the man's angry voice came again. "You need to give birth to 10 sons and 10 daughters for this king." He had to punish this woman severely for all the old and new grudges. Bai Yan casually raised her hand and pulled down the bed curtains. She wrapped the bed curtains around her body and the smile on her lips gradually revealed a sense of eeriness. Beauty. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up as she lifted Dikang's chin. That smile was evil and unbridled, and her brows were flamboyant. "If you want to take revenge on me, it won't be that easy. So, you should give up." Dikang felt the temperature of the woman's fingers and his breathing was heavy. It was obvious that he was a little angry as he sneered and said, "Bai Yan, if you are teasing this king, you will definitely regret it." Chapter 93. 93 Bai Ji has become a joke. The surrounding wind was getting colder and colder. It was clearly in the middle of the afternoon, but it made the guards shiver from the cold. "Your Highness." Bai Ji crawled up from the ground and patted her skirt, shyly twisting the corner of her clothes. "I didn't see your Highness just now, so I was rude in front of your Highness. Please forgive me, your Highness." Perhaps it was this charming and moving voice that finally made Dikang place his gaze on the young girl. "Who are you?" The man's domineering voice was slightly cold, causing Bai Ji to be dumbfounded on the spot. "Wang Qian, your Highness, we've met before at the Lan family's banquet. I'm your fiancé." How could he not know her? The man who was originally unmoved, after hearing this, a touch of surprise appeared in his phoenix eyes. "Little Yan you've changed your appearance." Dikang's red lips curled up. "It's a pity that you're still better looking in your previous appearance. With your current appearance, I'm afraid that you'll scare this king into turning into a gigolo." Cough cough. The guards of the prince's residence almost laughed at his words. If they didn't know His Highness's personality, Qian and the others would have been fooled by his superb acting. Tisk, this Bai Ji was also as beautiful as flower, but in the end, His Highness actually said that he would be scared to the point of turning into gigolo when he saw her appearance. Wanjai Wan. Bai Ji gently bit her lips, a layer of tears appearing in her eyes. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not Bai Yan. I'm Bai family's Bai Ji. It's that slut Bai Yan again. I really don't know what His Highness sees in that cheap woman." He had actually set his eyes on her. However, it didn't matter. With the Empress's support, Prince Kang wouldn't dare to not marry her. Dikang's face suddenly sank. His phoenix eyes coldly stared at the aggrieved and pitiful Baiji in front of him, a demonic light flashing through his eyes. It's not little Yan Er, his lips slowly curled into a sinister arc. Then you're really bold to dare to pretend to be this prince's fiancé. In Luhuo Kingdom, what is the crime of impersonating a member of the imperial family? Your Highness, the guard at the side replied respectfully, the worst case is to have his entire family executed, and the worst case is to be locked up in the criminal division. Impersonating a member of the royal family. Baiji's eyes widened and her lips trembled. No, I didn't impersonate her. It was the Empress' decree for me to be your Highness' concubine. You cannot disobey the Empress' decree. The Empress? Dikang laughed coldly. The Empress has already been banished to the cold palace. Can her imperial decree still count? Baiji's head seemed to have exploded, and her face was pale and bloodless. She staggered and almost fell down, but in the end, she held onto the tree beside the road and forced herself up. I don't believe it if I don't. How could the Empress be banished to the cold palace for no reason? You must be lying to me. At the end of her sentence, she felt her heart tearing as her tears fell like a string of beads. She didn't believe that the Empress, whom she regarded as her backer, would fall just like that. What about her marriage? Immediately send her to the criminal division. Dikang slightly raised his chin, cold and emotionless. And warn the world that Baiji impersonated this prince's princess consort and committed all kinds of misdeeds. And you even have ill intentions towards this king. This crime could kill 9 generations of his family. However, for Xiao Yan Er's sake, I won't touch the Bai family for the time being. If there's a next time, I won't spare a single member of the Bai family. Baiji's body finally couldn't hold on and she stumbled to the ground. She bit her lips tightly and her eyes were filled with intense anger. Chapter 94. 94. You're more ruthless than me. The guards all sympathized with Baiji. Although Baiji was thrown into the criminal division for punishment, but after she entered the punishment department, would she still have good days? She would never leave the criminal investigation unit unless she was worn out. At this moment, a group of people had already gathered on the street in front of the Lan family's residence. Especially not long ago, Baiji had gone around announcing that Prince Kang of the city was going to marry her as a consort. Now, she had been slapped in the face by Prince Kang on the spot. For a time, she had become a joke in the eyes of everyone. Baiji stared blankly at Dikang's back as he walked into the Lan family. The tears in her eyes gushed out and rolled onto the ground. Immediately, 2 guards of the prince's mansion came forward and picked up Baiji, who was still crying silently, and walked towards the direction of the punishment department in a daze. The Lan family's courtyard. Bai Yan looked at the man who was striding over and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. I've long guessed that you would never listen to the Empress's orders. This man wasn't someone ordinary people could control. He was powerful, arrogant, and looked down on the common people. Then how should Xiao Yan Er thank this king? Dikang's voice was low and deep, yet it contained a magical power, as if it could deeply attract the attention of others. Bai Yan raised her brows. You crippled her for your own sake. What does that have to do with me? Dikang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly and he chuckled in a low voice, the Empress wants you to be this prince's concubine. To let you be a concubine, shouldn't you cripple her? I know. Bai Yan shrugged. The eunuch who passed on the decree is still here. How could I not know about this? When Dikang heard these words, his domineering eyes swept around and saw the little eunuch who was curled up and trembling at the side. Is this the guy who came to give you the decree? The little eunuch's face was filled with terror. Everything that had happened outside earlier had reached his ears. He had naturally also heard the news that Dikang had claimed that the Empress had been crippled. Drag him out. After seeing Bai Yan nod, Dikang's voice turned slightly cold. Throw him to Nangang Yuan and let him decide. A guard cupped his fists and walked to the young eunuch's side. Under the young eunuch's panicked gaze, he forcefully dragged him out of the door. This king has already helped you clean it up. Dikang's domineering eyes slowly turned towards Bai Yan. For such a person, there's no need to say any nonsense. Just throw him out directly. If he continues to find trouble, then kill him. Dikang had a kind of aura that with this king's support, you don't need to fear anyone. Actually, don't you think that watching these clowns can make your life more interesting? The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up and her eyes contained a smile. Otherwise, this life would be too boring. She preferred to watch her enemy fall from a high position in despair. Dikang swept a glance at Bai Yan. This king does not know. What's so interesting about them jumping around in front of you? Compared to your perverted interest, this king prefers to have them jump around on fire iron. Bai Yan's expression immediately darkened. Perverted? Who was the pervert? You're more ruthless than me. These few words were said by Bai Yan through gritted teeth. Dikang's brows raised slightly and he raised his hand to pull Bai Yan into his embrace. This king has something to discuss with Xiao Yan Er. Are you planning to stay and watch? The old master of the Lan family glanced at Dikang and a smile appeared on his old face. Your Highness, please do as you wish. We won't disturb you any longer. Master Lan glared at Lan Xiaoun, who was looking at her with great interest, and said, What are you looking at? Hurry up and leave. Don't disturb your sister. This Prince Kang was obviously much more self-disciplined than the other members of the royal family. He did not even have a concubine in his residence. Only a man like this was worthy of his granddaughter. Chapter 95 95 Little Chen Er was exposed. Lan Xiaoun felt very wronged. She pouted her mouth and followed behind old Master Lan. She turned around every 3 steps and when she saw Bai Yan looking over, she hurriedly gave her an encouraging gesture, meaning for her to quickly take down Dikang. You dare! Bai Yan had just turned her head when a pair of cold red lips covered her, suppressing all her words. The man's large hands were tightly wrapped around her waist, and their figures were intertwined. Under the falling flowers, they were as beautiful as a peerless painting. After a long time, Dikang released the woman in his arms. His red lips were slightly raised and his smile was domineering and evil. You still owe this king 7 kisses. Dikang. Bai Yan was a little angry. What exactly are you here for? Kiss. The man replied shamelessly. He deliberately lowered his voice and said in a bewitching tone, If this king finds out that you've secretly hidden this king's son, Yingluo, then you'll have to return this king 10 sons. 10 sons. Did this guy think she was a sow? Bai Yan laughed coldly. I believe that with your identity, there are many people who want to bear you a son. Why do you have to keep pestering me? Up until now, only you, Lao Ai, have not caused this king any evil. At the same time, only this woman, Yingluo, could make him have a physiological reaction. A cold glint flashed across Bai Yan's eyes. This man approached her only because he urged her to not let him develop any evil. There are many women in the world, and you've only come into contact with a small number of people, yet you claim that I'm the only one who won't let you do evil. What if you meet another woman who won't let you do evil in the future? Bai Yan smiled sarcastically. Then you want me to share a husband with someone? Unfortunately, I, Bai Yan, would rather die than live in dishonor. I absolutely won't share a man with someone else. After saying this, she no longer looked at the man behind her. She turned around and walked towards the Lan family's backyard. Dikang stared in the direction that Bai Yan had left and frowned slightly. What did this king say wrong? This woman had a bad temper. When did he say that he wanted her to share her husband with someone else? The guard at the side lowered his head and didn't dare to speak. He really wanted to tell his prince that this was not the way to court a woman. Just because he did not hate her, he wanted to marry her as a concubine? No woman would agree to this. Suddenly, a black-robed man descended from the sky and said respectfully, "I have just found out that Miss Bai has a close relationship with the owner of Phoenix House, Hualuo. It is said that a few years ago, Miss Bai saved Hualuo's life, and since then, Hualuo has been loyal to her." He had spent a lot of effort to find out about this. After all, the only people who knew about this were the people around Hualuo. Moreover, the black-robed man continued, "Hualuo bought a house in Luhuo Kingdom some time ago." Dikang's eyes flickered as he said with a cold smile, "Bai Yan, this time around, this king shall see what you have to say, sisi." On the bustling East Street, Bai Zhenxiang stood outside an old house. His gaze was somewhat anxious as he looked inside. Not long after, a guard walked out and coldly said, "Lord Bai, please go back. My little master doesn't want to see you." Bai Zhenxiang's expression was a little disappointed. "May I ask if your little master is Miss Hualuo's son?" A few days ago, he had learned that someone from Phoenix House had bought this house. The person who bought the house was the guardian of Phoenix House's owner, Hualuo. He didn't need to think to know the identity of the person living in this house. Chapter 96. 96 Poor little Chen Er. Unfortunately, he had already been here for a few days and had not even seen the other party's face. If it wasn't for his patience, he would have given up on Wan Wan long ago. "I'm sorry, I can't tell you anything. Please go back," the guard said coldly. Unfortunately, Bai Zhenxiang was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. In front of the Phoenix House, even if the other party was only a guard, he did not dare to be presumptuous. He could only suppress the unhappiness in his heart, turn around, and leave. In the courtyard, an angry roar sounded out, shaking Xiaomi, who was hiding on the tree. It almost let go of the preserved plum in its hand and dropped it. "Xiaomi, you stole my meat to eat again." "Gilu." Xiaomi hurriedly grabbed the dried plum meat and stuffed it into its mouth. It fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and swallowed the large piece of dried plum meat. When Bai Xiaochen appeared, Xiaomi spread out its greasy claws and said innocently, "I didn't do anything. Don't accuse me. You didn't even wipe your hands after you ate it, and you dare to tell me you didn't do anything. Don't you know that was the last piece of meat that mother left for me? Now that you've eaten it, what am I supposed to eat?" In his anger, Bai Xiaochen leaped onto the tree and picked up Xiaomi's tail. Then, he landed steadily on the ground, turned its head down, and fiercely swung it twice. "Bad Xiaomi, spit it out, quickly spit out my meat." Xiaomi's eyes shone with stars from being swung by it, but no matter how Bai Xiaochen swung it, Xiaomi was not willing to spit out the meat it had eaten. What a joke! It could return the things it had eaten. "Why? Bai Xiaochen burst out crying. "Xiaomi, you're too bad. Mother clearly gave us the same dried plum meat before she left. After you finished yours, you secretly ate mine. I'm going to tell mother and let her stew tiger meat for me." Cough cough. Xiaomi coughed dryly. When it suddenly heard Bai Xiaoqin's words, it was so frightened that its entire body trembled. It said weakly, "Little master, why don't we go and find a chef to make some for you? Those people's cooking skills aren't as good as mother's." Bai Xiaoqin's face was filled with grievances. Mother isn't around these few days, and baby is about to become thin from hunger. Even those dried plum meat, I'm only willing to eat a little each time. Now, you've eaten them all, he. His body slowly fell to the ground, and he leaned against the tree behind him weakly. His pink lips were slightly pursed, and his pitiful appearance made one's heart ache. Baby is so hungry, I miss Mother Yingluo. Xiaomi felt a little guilty. I'll go find master. How about I let her do something? Bai Xiaoqin's eyes brightened, but they immediately dimmed again. There were still sparkling tears on his small face. Mother is already very busy dealing with the dregs. Baby can't cause trouble for mother, or else mother will be exhausted. And what if Yingying was discovered by that big bad guy? Then, Zhen, how about we go and cause trouble for the Bai family? Xiaomi's eyes shifted. That Bai Zhenxiang is really despicable. Knowing that this house was bought by Hualuo, he came here every day to make use of his connections. He really doesn't know shame. Since you're in a bad mood, you can go and cause trouble for the Bai family. Bai Xiaoqin's eyes instantly became extremely bright. But just as he recovered his strength, a messenger pigeon flew down from the sky and landed in front of Bai Xiaoqian. Its mother's reply, an innocent and naive smile appeared on Bai Xiaoqin's face. He carefully opened the paper on the pigeon's leg and spread it out. When he saw the contents of the letter, Bai Xiaoqian was so aggrieved that he almost cried. "What's wrong? What did master say?" Xiaomi asked anxiously. Bai Xiaoqian raised his teary eyes and said pitifully, "Mother said that she has already informed Sister Chu to come and take me back to the sacred island. Sister Chu will be here in a few days." Suanji. Chapter 97. 97 Chen Er's companions. Xiaomi was startled. They had just come out not long ago and they were going back so soon. Just as Xiaomi was in deep thought, Bai Xiaoqian threw the letter to him. He got up, patted his pants, and walked out of the courtyard. "Little master, where are you going?" Xiaomi asked in a daze. Bai Xiaoqian stopped and pouted his small mouth. "Last time, our neighbor, Wang Little Fatty, invited me to his house as a guest. Now that I'm leaving, I have to say goodbye to him and his sister, Wang Xiaotong. Yesterday, Wang Xiaotong said that she would be my wife. Although I don't want to marry her, if I leave without saying goodbye, she will definitely think that I'm afraid." The more he spoke, the more depressed Bai Xiaoqin's expression became. On the sacred island, he didn't have any playmates of the same age. Now that he had finally made a new friend, they had to part in just a few days. "Little master, I remember that Wang Little Fatty gave you a golden bangle as a gift. Since you're going to say goodbye, do you want to give him a gift as well?" Xiaomi kindly suggested. As expected, when Bai Xiaoqian heard this, he lightly patted his small head. "I actually forgot to bring a gift for little Fatty Wang, but the last piece of preserved plum was eaten by you, so I could only give him some candy. I wonder if little Fatty Wang likes Yingying." Xiaomi quickly ran to Bai Xiaoqin's side. Its claws dug around his body for a while and pulled out 2 bottles of medicinal pills. "These 2 bottles of pills are supplementary pills. You can eat them as you please. Don't give them the wrong ones later. If you give them to the effective ones, you'll die." There were 2 types of elixirs. The effective ones were for healing injuries or helping people break through and recover true qi. These pills could not be taken at any time. If one took too many, they would only explode and die. In comparison, support-type medicinal pills could only play a supporting role in a person's cultivation, and their effects were not very strong. There weren't so many concerns regarding this type of medicinal pill, and it was also the best choice for Bai Xiaoqian to give as a gift. Bai Xiaoqian blinked his eyes. "Xiaomi, don't come with me. Wang Xiaotong is afraid of you." Hearing this, the small thing glanced at Bai Xiaoqian with a very aggrieved look, as if silently accusing him of valuing sex over friendship. However, Bai Xiaoqian did not even spare it a glance. He held onto the 2 bottles of medicinal pills tightly in his small hands and quickly walked out of the house, leaving only Xiaomi to stare at the direction he left in with a resentful gaze. The Wang family was right next to the old house and was only separated by a wall. Therefore, after Bai Xiaoqian stepped out of the old house, he immediately entered the Wang family's house. The guards of the Wang clan were also very familiar with this little fellow who often came to look for their young master and young miss. They did not stop him and allowed him to enter. However, the moment Bai Xiaochen stepped into the Wang clan, he heard little fatty Wang's shrieks that were like pigs being slaughtered. "Oh you! Father, stop hitting me. I'm innocent." A ball-like figure rolled out of the door and scrambled towards the door. Behind him was a middle-aged man with a stick, chasing after him like a dog chasing a chicken. "You little brat, I was still wondering where your sister's dudu went. You actually hid it? If I don't beat you to death today, I'll take on your surname." Wang Deqiu's face was flushed red. He was clearly very angry. "Father, I'm really innocent. How could I do such a beastly thing?" As little fatty Wang was fleeing, he suddenly caught sight of Bai Xiaochen standing at the door. His eyes lit up, and tears and snot flowed down his face as he ran behind Bai Xiaochen. "Bai Xiaochen, hurry up and save me. My father likes you very much. He'll definitely listen to your words." Chapter 98. 98 The legendary child of another family. Bai Xiaochen had a serious look on his face as he said righteously, "Little fatty Wang, you're not right. It's one thing for you to steal a servant girl's undergarments, but you're not even going to let your sister off." Wang little fatty was on the verge of tears. "Bai Xiaochen wouldn't let you cheat your friends like this. Look at how sensible little Chen is, and look at you. You're not even half as good as him." Wang Deqiu's face was filled with anger. How did he give birth to such a perverted son? At such a young age, he was already so lecherous. All of the maidservants of the Wang family had been molested. Now, he even wanted to lay his hands on his own sister. If this wasn't a pervert, what was? But this time, little fatty Wang was really wronged. No matter how perverted he was, he would never lay his hands on his sister. If he knew who threw his sister's dudu into his room, he would definitely beat him to death. "Uncle Wang," Bai Xiaochen greeted him very politely and continued, "I'm looking for Wang little fatty and Wang Xiaotong for something. Can you hit him after I leave?" The moment he saw Bai Xiaochen, Wang Deqiu's angry face was immediately filled with a smile. He was smiling so much that his eyes had narrowed into a line. "Good, good, good." He said good 3 times in a row, and his smile bloomed like a flower. But when he noticed little fatty Wang's body slowly moving out from behind Bai Xiaochen, he glared at him again. "You should learn more from little Chen. Don't just think about those beautiful maids all day long. If there's a next time, I'll break your legs." Other people's children were better, unlike his own son, who really wanted to anger him to death. Little fatty Wang's gaze was filled with grief. "Bai Xiaochen, I keep feeling that you're my father's biological son. I'm someone he picked up from the streets." He. Bai Xiaochen blinked his eyes. "Forget it. Your father can't move when he sees beautiful women. I don't want him to be a father." Wang little fatty suddenly seemed to have found a common language as his eyes, which were almost invisible due to his fat, shone brightly. "Bai Xiaochen, you think so too? Actually, I don't want this father either. Yingluo, why don't you be my father?" Bai Xiaochen was stunned. His large eyes were wide open, and he had an innocent look on his face. What was going on? He suddenly had a son. "Big brother." A young and tender voice suddenly rang out, causing little fatty Wang to shiver in fear. A look of embarrassment appeared on his face. It was a little girl that was as fair as jade. Compared to little fatty Wang's ball-like figure, she was much more petite and dainty. Her pink face had an innocent smile on it. "Big brother, be careful that I don't tell father what you said." "I was just joking," Wang little fatty laughed awkwardly. "You must not tell him, otherwise, I will definitely be beaten to death." Wang Xiaotong ignored little fatty Wang and turned his large eyes to look at Bai Xiaochen. "Little fatty Wang, Wang Xiaotong." Bai Xiaochen glanced at his 2 new companions and said with some reluctance, "I came to bid you farewell." I'm leaving this place. You're leaving? Little Fatty Wang was startled. He pulled Bai Xiaoqin's hand and pouted. We've only known each other for a few days. You're leaving so soon? Bai Xiaoqian nodded his head with difficulty. That big bad guy is about to find me. Mother wants me to go back, but don't worry. When I grow up and have the strength to protect Mother, I will come back. At that time, you must not forget me. Why? The moment Wang Xiaotong heard that Bai Xiaoqian was leaving, she burst into tears. As she sobbed, she said, Xiaoqian, I can't bear to part with you, Hua. Chapter 99 99 The Heartbroken by Xiaoqian. Xiaotong, don't cry anymore. I've brought gifts for you. Bai Xiaoqian saw Wang Xiaotong bawling loudly and little Fatty Wang who could not bear it. His heart was extremely uncomfortable, but he still took out the gifts he had prepared. These are my and Xiaomi's snacks. I've specially brought them for you guys. Try them and see if you like them. What is this? When Wang Xiaotong saw the medicinal pill that Bai Xiaoqian took out, he blinked his eyes. Wow, it seems to be jelly beans. I love jelly beans the most. She took the pill bottle from Bai Xiaoqin's hands, twisted the cap open, poured out a pill, and placed it in her mouth. The sweetness entered his mouth, and his mouth was filled with fragrance. These jelly beans are really delicious. They're even more delicious than the ones Daddy bought from the market. When little Fatty Wang saw the food, his eyes lit up. He snatched the 2 bottles of pills from Wang Xiaotong's hands and swallowed one of them. Give me back the jelly beans. Little Chen gave them to me. Wang Xiaotong's face was red with anger as he charged towards Wang Xiaotong with his teeth bared. Little Fatty Wang rolled his eyes at her. I'm not giving it to you, so what? Didn't you want to lose weight? Then what's the point of eating jelly beans, just give them all to me. Anyway, I'm already so fat, I don't mind getting fatter. The 2 siblings were locked in a fierce fight over the jelly beans. On this side, Bai Xiaoqian was even sadder. Didn't she say she didn't want to leave him? Why did Yingluo and the others forget about him for a few bites of food? Bai Xiaoqian glanced at the 2 siblings who were still chasing each other and playing around. In the end, he chose to leave quietly. But to a foodie, in front of delicious food, everything else could be cast aside. That was why no one noticed Yingying even after he left. You little brat. Not long after Bai Xiaoqian left, an angry roar came from the hall again. Wang Deqiu was seen walking out of the hall in quick steps. He immediately saw little Fatty Wang, who was stuffing something into his mouth as he ran. He was instantly enraged and rushed over in an aggressive manner. Did you bully your sister again? He stood in front of little Fatty Wang and lifted him up. He was about to fly into a rage when he suddenly saw the pill bottle in little Fatty Wang's hand. Daddy! 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 Little Fatty Wang raised his head in shock and saw Wang Deqiu's furious face. He was so scared that his entire body trembled. Just as he was about to defend himself, his palm suddenly loosened and the pill bottle was snatched away by Wang Deqiu. Wang Deqiu threw little Fatty Wang down and sniffed the pill bottle. When he smelled the alluring fragrance, his eyes lit up and he quickly poured the contents of the bottle into his palm. A round pill slid down the bottle and landed in his palm. Its dark green eyes were very likable, and the alluring medicinal fragrance stimulated Wang Deqiu's nerves. Who gave you this? Wang Deqiu asked after taking a deep breath. Little Fatty Wang did not understand what was going on, but he did not dare to not answer. It's a gift from Bai Xiaoqian to me and Xiaotong. Father, do you want to eat jelly beans too? Candy. Wang Deqiu thought back to the scene of little Fatty Wang stuffing pills into his mouth, and his face darkened. How many of these jelly beans did you eat just now? He. Little Fatty Wang was stunned. There are probably 10 of them. 10. At that moment, Wang Deqiu's expression cracked. Before Wang Xiaopang could figure out what was going on, Wang Deqiu yanked his pants down and hit him with the long rod. I told you to treat medicinal pills like candy, I'll let you eat all the pills. You prodigal. Do you know how much money you've spent on these few bites? If I don't beat you to death today, I'll change my surname to yours. Chapter 100. 100 Chapter 99 Dikang came. Ow. Little fatty Wang wailed in pain as his fat body struggled. Father, don't hit me, don't hit me. Just now, Bai Xiaochen gave us 2 bottles. I only ate 1 bottle, and there's still 1 bottle left. As soon as Wang Xiaopang finished speaking, Wang Deqiu's stick stopped. He let go of Wang Xiaopang and threw the long stick away. He said in a serious tone, "Why didn't you say so earlier? You've made me waste so much energy to hit you. Hurry up and hand over the pill, or I'll confiscate it." Little fatty Wang was so aggrieved that he was on the verge of tears. He timidly took out another bottle of pills and pitifully handed it over to Wang Deqiu. "Now this is more like it." Wang Deqiu snorted and took the pill. Under little fatty Wang's resentful gaze, he turned and left. When no one saw his serious face, he had already smiled. Medicinal pills were all silver. Shining silver. How good would it be if little fatty didn't eat so much silver? At the same time, the Lan family. It was peaceful and peaceful. The woman was dressed in an alluring red dress that spread out on the rockery. Under the scorching sun, she was stunningly beautiful and unparalleled. Cousin, Lan Xiaoun sat down beside her, her palm supporting her cheeks. Her big eyes were slightly blinking with a bright light. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" Bai Yan raised her brows and turned to Lan Xiaoun. "It's the man you had sex with Qian back then. Is he the Kang Emperor?" She knew that this matter was too embarrassing for a woman. Therefore, she was a little conflicted when she asked, afraid that she would touch Bai Yan's wound. Bai Yan's heart trembled, but her expression did not change. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, I heard that in this morning's court session, the Kang Emperor showed off his might and claimed that he was drugged and forced you. He also said that if anyone dared to humiliate you again, he would hunt them down for 1,000 miles and wouldn't stop until they were dead." The more Lan Xiaoun spoke, the more excited she became. If Dikang could really marry her cousin, then her cousin would be able to ruthlessly trample the Bai family under her feet. Bai Yan's fingers that were gently stroking her black hair paused when she heard these words. A complicated emotion emerged from the bottom of her heart. 6 years ago, she was clearly the one who drugged Dikang and raped him. However, in order to not let his reputation be damaged, Dikang was willing to take the responsibility on himself. Why did Ran help her? Just because she didn't want him to be evil? If that was all, he had done too much. "What's wrong, cousin?" Lan Xiaoun saw that Bai Yan had fallen into deep thought and asked curiously. "It's nothing." Bai Yan's brows knitted slightly. In fact, ever since Dikang left, she had been feeling a little uneasy. Now that she heard Lan Xiaoun's words, her mood became even more complicated. She kept feeling that something was going to happen. Bai Xiaochen. Suddenly, Bai Xiaochen leaped into Bai Yan's mind and she suddenly stood up. "Cousin, where are you going?" Lan Xiaoun also stood up. However, as soon as she finished speaking, the gorgeous red dress quickly disappeared from her sight, making her look a little stunned. "No, something's not right with my cousin today. I have to tell Grandpa as soon as possible. Don't let anything happen to her." Lan Xiaoun bit her lips and stomped her feet. She then carefully climbed down the rockery and quickly ran in the direction of the tea house. Just as Bai Yan was walking towards the old house, Dikang had already brought people to surround the entire old house. "Your Highness, please give your orders." The guard knelt down respectfully, waiting for Dikang's orders. Dikang's eyes were domineering as he coldly ordered, "You guys wait for this king here." After saying this, he stepped into the old house alone. Chapter 101. 101 Your father is here. The sounds of people mumbling could be heard from outside the door. Bai Xiaochen, who was feeling sad over the fact that little fatty Wang and his sister valued food over friendship, furrowed his adorable brows slightly. Xiaomi, why is it so noisy outside? Is it Bai Zhenxiang, that big bad guy, who is here again? Buzz. A snow-white ray of light streaked across the sky, and the little white tiger's tiny body landed in front of Bai Xiaochen. He was panting slightly. Little master, run. Your father is here. Bai Xiaochen was so shocked that he directly rolled down from the rockery, his cute little face completely pale. How did that bastard find me? Don't worry about it, just leave this place. Where's the pill that master gave you to hide your aura? Hurry up and take it. It's finished. If that man found her, little master would be snatched away. At that time, master would be in so much pain that he would wish he were dead. Bai Xiaochen was also panicking. He took out all the medicinal pills in his arms and found the medicinal pills he needed with great difficulty. He immediately twisted open the bottle cap, poured one out, and swallowed it. Xiaomi, what do we do now? Even if I take this pill, if that man sees me, he will definitely guess my identity. He was so anxious that he was about to cry. If his mother was here, she would definitely have a way for him to escape. Xiaomi's eyes flashed and looked at the lake not far away. A shrewd light flashed in its eyes. Little master, go and hide in the lake first. Don't come out and wait for that man to leave before you appear. Bai Xiaochen nodded his head solemnly. His body turned into a silver-colored young fox under the sunlight and quickly ran towards the lake that was like a jade pool not far away. After his small body was submerged in the lake water, Xiaomi finally heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside the courtyard. The man was unparalleled in his beauty and magnificence. His brows were full of flamboyant frivolity, and he seemed to be able to set off a gust of wind as he walked. Hua Luo followed closely behind. Her gaze anxiously swept around the courtyard. When she did not see Bai Xiaochen's figure, she heaved a sigh of relief. Your Highness, the person you're looking for really isn't here. You should return. No. Since this king has come, I will not leave so easily. The corners of Dikang's brows rose. Hua Luo's eyes became more and more anxious. She had just sent someone to inform her master. She didn't know if her master had returned or not. Your Highness, even if you're a prince, isn't it too much for you to break into a private residence? Hua Luo's eyes turned cold. Besides, Phoenix House isn't so easy to bully. Dikang's footsteps stopped. A heavy pressure spread out from his purple robe. He did not turn back, his voice low and without any temperature. If Bai Yan had not saved Suanji's life, just based on that sentence, you would have already died. Hua Luo's eyes widened in shock. This man actually knew that his life was saved by his master? Could there be a traitor in Luan Phoenix Tower? Did she reveal her relationship with master? When Xiaomi saw that Hua Luo was so reckless as to go against Dikang, it hurriedly called out, attracting Dikang's gaze to it. As a descendant of the white tiger, you're actually pretending to be a weak cat? You're even so skilled at pretending. It seems like the swan and cat race is more suitable for you. Xiaomi felt that it had miscalculated. Since this man was the little master's father, his status was definitely not ordinary. However, she had to pretend to be a meow 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 in front of him. This king will give you one last chance. Where is that kid? Chapter 102. 102 Chapter 101 The Azure Emperor's Conspiracy. The man's domineering eyes swept across the surroundings, but his gaze stopped at the lake not far away. In that short moment, Xiaomi was so nervous that its heart was about to jump out. Fortunately, the man only paused for a moment before turning to another place. You've seen through me. I can't be bothered to pretend anymore. Xiaomi laid on the ground and stretched lazily. Bai Yan is my master, but she doesn't have any children. The person you're looking for is definitely not her. Dick Hang's cold eyes swept over Xiaomi. He flicked his sleeves and sat down, his domineering voice was filled with awe. If that's the case, then this prince will wait for Xiao Yan to return before we talk. Xiaomi's heart thumped and he looked at the lake water with some worry. However, he was afraid that Dick Hang would see through something and hurriedly retracted his gaze. Time passed by slowly. At noon, a woman in a red dress descended from the sky and saw the man who was leaning lazily in the peach pavilion. At this moment, her heart was hit hard. The man's body was half leaning against the rockery behind him, and the peach flowers around him were falling gently, covering his purple robe. His lapels were half open, his chest slightly exposed. His slender fingers gently pinched the emerald jade pot, and his head was slightly raised. The sparkling wine from the emerald jade cup slowly fell into the man's mouth. What a peerless picture of a beautiful man drinking wine. It was estimated that any woman who saw such a soul-stirring scene would not be indifferent. Unfortunately, when Bai Yan saw this lazy and evil man, a wave of anger surged in her heart. The Azure Emperor sure is carefree. What, is the wine in your Azure Emperor palace not enough for you to drink? You want to come to my territory to drink? Hualuo, who was originally standing nervously by the side, had relaxed ever since Bai Yan appeared and slowly walked to her side. Even Xiaomi gave a woo sound and jumped into her arms. You've finally come. Dick Hang placed the emerald jade pot in his hand on the table, his domineering eyes landing on Bai Yan bit by bit. When he saw Xiaomi, who was nestled in Bai Yan's embrace, he actually had an impulse to tear this little white tiger into 1,000 pieces. Bai Yan gently stroked Xiaomi's hair. There were a few times when she wanted to ask about little Chen Er's whereabouts, but she was afraid that Dick Hang would hear it and forcefully held back the words that were on the tip of her tongue. Dick Hang. She suddenly raised her hand, and in an instant, an arm stretched out from the front, pulled her body, and turned her around, pressing her against the peach tree behind her. At the same time, he also threw the little white tiger that was an eyesore out of her arms. Master! Hualuo turned pale with fright and was just about to step forward when she was stopped by Bai Yan. Hualuo, you can leave first. Hearing this, Hualuo was startled. She glanced at Bai Yan and then at Dick Hang. In the end, she nodded and turned around to walk out of the courtyard. Bai Yan, do you think that if you don't say it, this king will not know where our son is hiding? Dick Hang laughed coldly and his finger brushed across the woman's lips as he said in a low voice, do you believe that this prince can make him come out with just one word? Bai Yan's heart trembled and she turned her head. I don't know what you're talking about. It seems that you won't give up until you've reached the Yellow River. This king will grant you your wish. The man gently let go of the woman he had pinned against the tree. His red lips curled into a sinister smile. If you're really unwilling to hand over our son, I'll take you away now. He won't be able to see you again in this life. Chapter 103. 103 Little Chen has been discovered. Bai Yan was furious. No one knew better than a mother what her son cared about. But she never thought that Dick Hang would actually use this kind of method to force little Chen to appear. Just as Bai Yan was continuously praying in her heart that Bai Xiaochen would never appear, a young and tender voice suddenly came from behind the man. Big bad guy, let go of my mother. Dick Hang's fingers had already loosened. It was also at this moment that Bai Yan's body recovered its strength and she quickly ran over to little Chen She pulled Bai Xiaochen into her embrace and tightly protected the little fellow in her arms. Mother, don't be afraid. Chen will protect you. No one can separate mother and Chen Bai Xiaochen patted Bai Yan's back like a little adult. He was clearly also very afraid, but he still pretended to be strong as he spoke. Only then was Dikang able to clearly see the appearance of the little person in Bai Yan's arms. The little guy was very cute with a pink face and a pair of clear eyes that were filled with stubbornness. Moreover, this kid's Kazaya was clearly a miniature version of him. Dikang's voice was low and deep, and there were unspeakable emotions in his eyes. "You're called Chen Er." Bai Xiaochen pouted his small lips. "I'm not that familiar with you. You should call me Bai Xiaochen. I'm your father." Dikang's face instantly turned cold. "You're a big bad guy. You bullied mother and even wanted to separate mother and baby. Baby doesn't want you to be a father." Bai Xiaochen was very vengeful, especially when Dikang wanted to separate him and Bai Yan. How could he accept this? The corners of Dikang's lips curled into an arc. "If I didn't say that, would you have obediently shown yourself?" Bai Xiaochen was dumbfounded. What did he mean by this? Did she deliberately set him up to show up? He immediately cried out in grievance. "Mother, baby doesn't like him. He's even more sinister than you. He set me up on purpose. I think a godfather is better." "Godfather? You still have a godfather?" Dikang gritted his teeth. "Baby's godfather is gentle and rich. He can be described as rich as a country." Bai Xiaochen didn't notice the anger that was surging out of Dikang's body at all as he spoke with a face full of pride. Dikang's face was already as black as the bottom of a pot. "This king lacks everything, but not money. Tell me, how much do you want? This king will bring it to you. Rich enough to rival a country." So what? What he had was the entire demon world, so how could it be inferior to a human brat? Bai Xiaoqin's expression was a little conflicted. In the end, he still gritted his teeth and said, "Those who bully mother are all bad guys. Baby doesn't want your silver. Silver is still better than mother. Of course, his mother was more important. When did I bully her? It seemed that this woman had always been the one who stabbed others with her thorns. Don't lie to baby. Baby was hiding under the bed and saw it. You even bit mother's lips." Before Bai Xiaochen could finish speaking, his mouth was covered by Bai Yan. She looked at Dikang a little guiltily and clearly noticed that the curly bearded man's face was even darker than before. So, the one who was hiding under the bed was this kid. The Azure Emperor's aura surged as his anger overflowed into the heavens. The moment he thought of how he had missed Bai Xiaochen despite being so close to him, his heart was filled with regret. If his subordinates had not found out that Bai Yan had a dispute with Phoenix House, when would he be able to see this kid? "Yes, Dikang, I admit that back then, I was indeed the one who did something bad to you." Bai Yan let go of the little fellow in her arms and gritted her teeth as she admitted everything. "It's just that Chen Er was brought up by me. He is my lifeblood. If you want to snatch my son away from me, then even if I have to stake my life, I will not let you feel good." Chapter 104. 104 Do you love me? Dikang's eyes narrowed slightly as he took 2 steps closer to Bai Yan. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Bai Yan felt that even her breathing had produced a kind of pressure. He is this king's son, so he naturally has to follow this king. The man's face was proud. "And after you, Qian, did such a beastly thing to this king, you still want to leave? It would be impossible in this lifetime." Bai Yan's eyes turned cold. "Are you trying to force us? If that's the case, then I, Bai Yan, would rather die than live in dishonor. I'd rather die than leave with you." The woman's words were like a fist, ruthlessly smashing into Dikang's heart. What is wrong with this king? You keep rejecting this king. All these years, he had never been so submissive, but she was full of thorns and cruel. Dikang, the corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up. "Then may I ask you, do you love me?" Dikang was a little confused. His emotional experience was a blank slate. Even the thing that Bai Yan had snatched away was his virgin body, Han Han. However, This was the second time this woman had asked him if he had fallen in love with her. You don't have me in your heart, and I don't have you, so why are you forcing me to go with you? Just because I gave you a son. Bai Yan smiled sweetly. However, there are too many women in this world who can give birth to children. I will not give myself to a man who does not love me. No, in this life, there is only one person who can bear this king's child. This was the prophecy of the demon realm. He came to the continent for this prophecy and met Jianjia on the first day. Seeing that the woman was about to pull Bai Xiaochen away, Dikang's low voice suddenly rang out, causing Bai Yan's footsteps to stop. She held Bai Xiaoqin's hand tightly, afraid that this man, Yingluo, would snatch him away. This king will give you time. You can temporarily not take him away. However, Hua, the man suddenly appeared in front of Bai Yan in a flash, his tall body blocking the path in front of her. You raped this king and even abducted this king's child. How should we settle this grudge? The last word was heavy and oppressive, and it made the air colder. What do you want? Bai Yan subconsciously took 2 steps back and asked. The man's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly and he smiled gloomily. Of course it's Zhen Zhen who will rape you. This was the first time Bai Yan had heard someone say rape in such a righteous manner. However, before she could raise any objections, the man had already raised his hand to stop her waist and instantly disappeared from the courtyard. Bai Xiaochen was stunned. After a long time, he had the urge to cry. Didn't she say that she was here to snatch him away? Why was his mother the one who was snatched away in the end, but he was the one who was abandoned? Little master, Yingluo. Xiaomi's weak voice came from the side. Xiaomi, where did you go just now? Bai Xiaochen asked angrily. He. Xiaomi was speechless for a moment. Was he going to tell his little master that he had only burrowed into his master's arms when his father had thrown him 1,000 feet away? It wasn't easy for him to crawl back. Xiaomi would definitely not say such an embarrassing thing. Oh, I just went to get help. It then gave a perfunctory reply. Where are the reinforcements? Oh, Yingluo, I was worried about Master halfway, so I came back. By the way, where's Master and your father? At the mention of this matter, Bai Xiaochen felt very aggrieved. The bad guy took mother away and left me behind. Chapter 105. 105 You are destined to marry this prince. Bai Yan's smile froze for a moment. Seemingly subconsciously, the body that was tightly pressed against Dikang also took 2 steps back. For 3 months, this king can endure it? After 3 months, you will still not be able to escape from this king's palm. Dikang took 2 steps closer to Bai Yan. Also, Huan, do you think that just because you let this king fall into a trap, this king will not be able to do anything to you? This woman actually thought that he had fallen into a trap and was unable to touch her, so she deliberately teased him. Dikang. Bai Yan continued to take 2 steps back. Actually, I have a way to make you reduce the 3 months to 1 month. What's the condition? Dikang narrowed his phoenix eyes. I don't want anyone to know that Chen Er is your son. She had never thought of living together with Dikang. If her grandfather knew that Bai Xiaochen was Dikang's son, he would definitely persuade her to marry Dikang. Why? Dikang raised his brows. This king wants to know a reason. I just don't want anyone to disturb my life with Chen Er, that's all. Bai Yan paused and said. Dikang's gaze was firmly locked on Bai Yan. When he saw her calm expression, he laughed arrogantly. All right, this king promises you. In any case, after a month, he would announce to everyone that Suanji and Bai Xiaochen were his, Dikang's, sons. He had already waited for 6 years, what difference would 1 more month make? Bai Yan heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like she had to bring up her revenge plan as soon as possible. After she finished the matters here, she would immediately leave with Chen Er. Also, 1-1. Bai Yan pursed the corners of her lips. Thank you. Thank you. Dikang swept a strange glance at her. This woman, Yingluo, also knows how to thank. I've already heard what you said at the morning court today. Thank you for exonerating me, but that's a separate matter. Don't expect me to be touched and devote my body to you. This king would never have such hopes. Dikang's lips curved up in a domineering manner. What does it have to do with this king if you're willing to give yourself to me? Regardless of whether you are willing to devote your life to me, you will marry this king sooner or later. Such a narcissistic man was truly unparalleled. Bai Yan kept feeling that this man was her nemesis, someone who was specially used to anger her. Dikang, I want to make a 3-point agreement with you. She looked a little annoyed. Speak. Dikang still raised his brows. First, without my permission, you are not allowed to forcefully take little Chen Er away. Second, there are many girls who admire you in Luhuo Kingdom. In addition to your special identity, there will be endless dangers. If you allow these dangers to harm Chen Er, I will never forgive you. Third, you are not allowed to force me. Other than the last condition, I will agree to everything else. Dikang raised his hand and ruthlessly pulled the woman into his embrace. He leaned over domineeringly and kissed her. After a long time, he lifted his lips. Bai Yan, after meeting this king, you will never be able to escape in this life. At this moment, Dikang clearly did not know that meeting Bai Yan was the calamity of his life. In this life, she was destined to fall into the trap and never be able to break free. At dusk, Dikang had already left. A maidservant took a piece of clothing from outside the door and walked in. After Bai Yan changed her clothes, she walked out. When the door opened, a pitiful little face was reflected in Bai Yan's eyes, instantly causing her heart to soften. Mother, did that big bad guy bully you? Bai Xiaoqin's voice was soft and sweet, cute like a little bun. He was currently blinking his innocent and pure eyes at Bai Yan. Chapter 106. 106 Nangongyi's anger. Bai Yan's face was a little awkward and she subconsciously wanted to cover her red lips. But coincidentally, Bai Xiaoqin's sharp eyes caught a glimpse of Bai Yan's slightly scraped lips and he was instantly furious. Did that big bad guy bite you again? I'm fine. Bai Yan's expression became even more embarrassed. How was she going to explain this to little Chen Er? Bai Xiaoqin's eyes were filled with heartache. Chen Er will blow on it for you, and it won't hurt anymore. His small body leaned on Bai Yan's body and stood on tiptoes as he gently exhaled a breath of hot air. His small hand was still continuously stroking Bai Yan's damaged lips. Chen Er. Bai Yan reached out and pulled Bai Xiaochen into her arms. She lowered her eyes and asked softly, "Do you want to see great-grandfather?" Bai Xiaoqin's eyes suddenly lit up. "Mother, are you planning to let Chen Er go and meet them? You've already been discovered by Dikang, so there's no point in hiding anymore. Moreover, Laoai." Bai Yan paused. With Dikang's character, he would not let anyone bully you. Xiaomi, who was at the side, could not help but flip Bai Yan. Bully this little ancestor? It's more like he's bullying others. When had anyone ever bullied him? Mother, I love you. When? Bai Xiaoqin's soft little lips were printed on Bai Yan's face. His smile was innocent and cute. Mother, great-grandfather will like Chen Er as much as uncle, right? Bai Yan nodded her head lightly and rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head. However, there's no rush for you to meet your great-grandfather. I need to think about how to introduce you. All right. Bai Xiaochen smiled happily. Chen Er is going to tell uncle this good news. Chen Er finally doesn't have to hide anymore. Looking at the little fellow's excited little appearance, Bai Yan's heart felt a wave of sourness. Perhaps Wawa had been wrong from the start. From the start, she should not have ignored Bai Xiaoqin's needs and let him hide behind her. Let Xiaomi accompany you. Bai Yan smiled. With Xiaomi around, at least within the Liufeng kingdom, no one would be able to hurt Bai Xiaoqian. Moreover, she had asked Hua Luo to arrange for a few people to go to the Bai family to protect Bai Su, the crown prince's residence. Ever since Bai Ruo returned from the imperial palace, she always felt itchy all over, causing her to raise her hand to scratch her back from time to time. It felt like there were 10,000 ants crawling on his body, but he couldn't kill them. Suddenly, a foot kicked the door open. Bai Ruo raised her head in surprise and saw the crown prince Nangongyi walk in with an ashen face. "Your Highness." Bai Ruo quickly got up. There were a few times when she wanted to scratch her itchy body again, but she was worried about Nangongyi and forcefully endured it. "Bai Ruo." Nangongyi's expression was unsightly. "Did you ask mother to pass on an imperial decree to Dikang? What happened?" Bai Ruo asked, startled. "You still dare to ask this prince what happened? Do you know what Bai Ji is like? He actually wanted her to be Dikang's concubine? And even make Bai Yan a concubine? Because of this decree, imperial father was furious and dethroned imperial mother from her position as the empress. He even banished her to the cold palace, not allowing anyone to visit her." Nangongyi clenched his fists tightly as the veins on his forehead throbbed and his voice was filled with anger. When Bai Ruo heard that no one was allowed to visit the empress, her heart was at ease. "Your Highness, how could I have bewitched mother into doing such a thing?" She gently bit her lips and said aggrievedly, "At that time, imperial mother and I met Bai Yan in the palace. Bai Yan claimed that the position of the crown prince's consort was originally hers and that I snatched away what belonged to her. She would definitely snatch it back. Because of this, imperial mother was furious. In addition, the Kang emperor has a very good impression of Bai Yan, so she wanted to help her." Chapter 107. 107 Bai Ruo's pain. "Really?" Nangongyi looked at Bai Ruo suspiciously. "Then how do you explain Bai Ji's matter? Without your words, would imperial mother have rashly made such a decision?" Bai Ruo felt very wronged as tears fell drop by drop. "At that time, I only mentioned it briefly, hoping that mother would pull strings so that Bai Ji and Prince Kang could get along for a period of time. As for whether it would be successful, it would depend on their feelings. However, I never thought that mother would directly issue a decree." Bai Ruo carefully pulled on Nangongyi's sleeve. "Your Highness, it's Ruo's fault. I should not have raised such an unreasonable request. Please punish me, Your Highness." Nangongyi's unsightly expression turned slightly better. "If this matter has nothing to do with you, then I have wronged you. Now imperial father is only angry for a moment. I will think of a way to let him cool down. Also, Qian." He paused for a moment before continuing. "Bai Ji has already been handed over to the Criminal Investigation Department by Dikang. I will find someone to make arrangements so that she won't suffer in there. Remember to get your father to come and apologize." Bai Ruo's heart skipped a beat. If His Majesty really released the Empress, wouldn't the matter of her instigating the Empress be exposed? No. She could not let the Empress leave the cold palace alive. A cold glint flashed in her eyes. When Bai Ruo lowered her head, the killing intent in her eyes was intense. Bai Ruo wasn't stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. She also knew what she had relied on to attract the crown prince all these years. If her true colors were revealed, then from then on, she would have no fate with glory, wealth, and rank. She would never let this happen. "Your Highness, thank you for being willing to believe in me." Bai Ruo slowly walked towards Nangongyi. She raised her eyes slightly and looked pitiful. "Unfortunately, mother has been locked up in the cold palace and Ger has also suffered the disaster of imprisonment. Only my elder sister, Huan, has been favored by Prince Kang. Hearing Bai Yan's name, Nangongyi's expression was a little complicated and he sighed slightly in his heart. How good would it have been if those things had not happened back then? In this way, even if the unparalleled beauty could not be his wife, she could still be his concubine. However, when he thought about how this woman had been defiled by other men, he felt an unspeakable disgust in his heart. Ruoer, what's wrong? When Nangongyi regained his senses, he saw Bai Ruo's stiff body. Her shoulders kept shuddering and her expression was very painful. I'm stunned. Bai Ruo bit her lips, I don't know what happened either. After I came into contact with my sister in the palace, my whole body itched when I came back, but it hurt badly when I scratched it. Nangongyi was startled. He tore Bai Ruo's clothes apart with a tearing sound, revealing the scratch marks all over his body. At this moment, there was not a single piece of skin that was in good condition on the woman. The scars all over her body made Nangongyi's heart ache, but he was even more furious. It was Bai Yan. He took a deep breath and asked with an ashen face. Bai Ruo shook her head. I don't know either. Although I've only come into contact with mother and sister in the palace, neither of them would do such a thing. Of course, it was impossible for the Empress to frame her. Therefore, there was only one possibility, that she was teasing Bai Yan. Your Highness. Bai Ruo's body wriggled like a snake, her little face deathly pale and her face like a weeping beauty. Ruoer is in so much pain. Ruoer, just you wait. I'll go and find an alchemist to treat you right now. As for Bai Yan Suanji, this crown prince will definitely not let her off. Originally, these few days, because of the banquet, Bai Yan's appearance would often appear in his mind, and he felt a little regretful in his heart. However, he had never thought that Bai Yan would do such a thing to a pure and kind woman like Ruoer. In his heart, he was a little glad that he had not married Bai Yan back then. Even if she had not lost her virginity, such a vicious person like her was not worthy of being the crown prince's consort. Otherwise, the entire crown prince's residence would never have a peaceful day. Chapter 108. 108. This is only the beginning. After Nangongyi left, the expression on Bai Ruo's face turned cold. She clenched her pink fists tightly and her eyes were filled with hatred. Bai Yan, the pain you've brought me, I'll pay you back in double. The pain and itchiness on her body made her raise her hand to scratch it again. Her long nails left a bloody mark on her snow-white skin, which made the hatred in her heart deepen. He didn't know that this was just the beginning. Ever since Bai Xiaochen left, Bai Yan had been thinking about how to introduce this little fellow so that she would not scare her maternal grandmother and the others. However, before she could make a decision, she saw Hua Luo, who was dressed in a peach-colored dress, walking towards her in a hurry. Master! Hua Luo's eyes were smiling, her voice soft and charming. The people I sent to young Master Yun Xiao's side just now sent a message. They said that young Master Qian was discovered by the Bai family when he went to look for young Master Yun Xiao. So I came to ask you, Master, do you want to go? Hua Luo was not too worried about Bai Xiaoqin's safety. That little fellow was smart and quick-witted, and if the Bai family were to go against him, the one who would suffer would only be the Bai family's Ran. Bai Yan's eyes sank. What evil is the Bai family up to again? Hua Luo, you stay here and wait for me. I'll be back soon. Since she had already decided to let Bai Xiaochen come out in the open, then she would definitely not hide him. Thinking of this, she flicked her sleeves and left in her red dress. In the blink of an eye, she had disappeared from Hua Luo's sight. The person who discovered Bai Xiaochen was none other than Yu Rong's mother, old Madame Yu. Speaking of this, old Madame Yu originally thought that after coming to the Bai family with her daughter, she would be able to enjoy life. Of course, it was true for the past 10 years. In the Bai family, her status was submissive, and no one could compare to her. Even her son-in-law had to obey her. Just a few days ago, after Bai Yan returned, everything had changed. First, it was his daughter who went crazy for no reason, the Empress was also thrown into the cold palace, and even Bai Ji was sent to the criminal department by Dikang. Therefore, old Madame Yu believed that Bai Yan's return had brought back bad luck. She planned to go to the temple outside the city to burn incense and pray to Buddha to drive away bad luck. Just as she was about to return home after burning incense and praying to the Buddha, she saw Bai Yao holding a little bun's hand. She hurriedly ordered the coachman to stop the carriage. Just as she was about to go and find out what was going on, she suddenly saw the little bun holding a sugar figurine and handing it to Bai Ling. The word uncle immediately made Bai Ling's cold face reveal a smile like a spring breeze. Bai Xiao's hand gently rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head, his eyes filled with gentleness. He was just about to speak when he raised his head and suddenly saw old Madame Yu, who had a shocked expression on her face. In that instant, the smile on Bai Su's face disappeared. His gaze was as sharp as a knife, and the chill was intense. Uncle! Bai Xiaoqian blinked his large, clear eyes and followed Bai Xiao's gaze. When he saw the scheming old Madame Yu, his big eyes flickered slightly, and no one knew what he was thinking. With the help of a servant girl, old Madame Yu slowly walked towards Bai Su. Her sinister eyes glanced at the little bun standing beside Bai Su, and a look of contempt flashed across her wrinkled old face. This bastard is Bai Yan's son? When Bai Yan returned a few days ago, she did not bring this kid along. They all thought that she had an accidental miscarriage and did not expect this kid to actually survive. If Bai Zhenxiang were to know that this disgrace was still alive, he would definitely fly into a rage. Chapter 109 109 Sold Little Chen Er. Bai Su's expression turned cold. Little Chen Er is my sister's son, not some bastard. I hope you can show me some respect. A kid whose father we don't even know, if he's not a bastard, what is he? Old Madame Yu sneered, her face full of disdain. The anger in Bai Su's eyes intensified. Just as he was about to get angry, a soft voice came from the side. Uncle, what's a bastard? Can it be eaten after growing it? Bai Xiaoqian blinked his eyes lightly and asked innocently. When old Madame Yu saw the boy's silly appearance, she felt even more disdainful. I'm talking about you, bastard. So it turns out that Chen Er was planted by mother. Bai Xiaoqian smiled adorably. But Chen Er is so smart and handsome. She must have used good quality seeds, unlike this old granny. The seeds must have gone bad, which is why she grew a wild seed like her. Earlier, Bai Xiao was still worried that Bai Xiaoqian would be affected by these words, but after hearing these innocent words, he really could not hold back his laughter. That's right. Chen Er is so cute and smart. She must be a good seed. Bai Xiao rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head, a smile in his eyes. Xiaomi, who was resting on Bai Xiaoqin's shoulder, also raised its head and looked at old Madame Yu, who was trembling from anger, with eyes full of disdain. His little master had lived for 5 years and had never been at a disadvantage. This old woman was still too young. Old Madame Yu stretched out a trembling finger and pointed at Bai Xiaoqian. You keep calling me a bastard? Do you have any manners? How did your mother teach you? A look of surprise flashed in Bai Xiaoqin's large eyes as he said in an aggrieved manner, Uncle, did Chen Er say something wrong? Wasn't a wild seed planted in the wild? She was the one who said that just now. His pitiful expression made the crowd around him feel a little bad, and they looked at old Madame Yu with a complaining look. This little guy was only a 5-year-old child. Would he understand what a bastard child was? However, old Madame Yu was the one who had said it first. Now, she had shot herself in the foot and blamed an innocent child. I'm your great-grandmother, who allowed you to be so rude in front of me. Old Madame Yu's eyes darkened as she chided. Bai Xiaoqian turned to Bai Xiao, feeling very puzzled. Uncle, she said she's my great-grandmother, Then who's from the Lan family? Mother only has one maternal grandmother, right? Bai Su looked at old Madame Yu, who was livid, and said indifferently, she's not related to you. Oh. Bai Xiaochen came to a sudden realization. Chen Er understands. Another person who sees Chen Er being obedient and cute and comes to randomly claim kinship. Old Madame Yu was so angry that she couldn't even stand steadily. She firmly held the hands of the maidservant behind her to barely support her body. As expected, the son of that B*TCH Bai Yan was simply the same as her. Uneducated. In comparison, Ruo Er's child was more sensible. No matter what, my son-in-law is your grandfather. You're going back to the Bai family with me today. Old Madame Yu's face darkened and she said coldly. Although this child was very insensible, at least he looked like a carved jade. He could say that there was no other child in Luhuo Kingdom who was better looking than him. If Wan sold him to a place like the Phoenix House, with his appearance, he would be able to become the number one of the Phoenix House's Xiao Mo in a few years. Recently, didn't Bai Zhenxiang want to curry favor with the Phoenix House? Perhaps this was a good opportunity. Chapter 110 110 Bai Xiaochen enters the Bai Manor. If not asterisk he could sell this kid to someone as asterisk prostitute. With his looks, he could at least exchange for a medicinal pill. Uncle. When Bai Xiaochen heard old Madame Yu's words, it was as if he had been frightened, and his body shrank in fear. This old woman is so scary. Will she sell Chen Er? Bai Ling's eyes softened. Don't worry, little Chen Er, you have nothing to do with him. She has no right to have any ideas about you. Is that so? Bai Xiaochen wrinkled his cute little nose. But, when we were on the island, a fox used a scheme to snatch meat from the crow's mouth. That fox revealed a scheming look, just like the old grannies. But Chen Er is not that stupid crow. She can't tell that someone is scheming against Chen Er. Old Madame Yu's expression was very ugly. There were a few times when she wanted to flare up, but she finally suppressed it and forced a smile on her old face. It's true that I'm a little too heavy if I've just surrendered, but how could I possibly sell you? You still have the blood of our Bai family in your body. Although old Madame Yu's surname was Yu, she had always regarded herself as a member of the Bai family, so she said this very smoothly. Besides, don't you want to see your grandfather? Maternal grandfather. Bai Xiaochen pursed his lips. That bad old fellow had locked his sick uncle in the ancestral hall, and he had yet to settle the score with him. Now, he still wanted him to go and see him. Even if you don't acknowledge me as your great-grandmother, your maternal grandfather is still your maternal grandfather. You followed your mother to Luhuo Kingdom, and if you don't meet your maternal grandfather, your mother's reputation will be even worse if word gets out. Old Madame Yu planned to trick this little thing into returning to the Bai family first. When the time came, wouldn't she be the one to decide what to do with it? If they were on the streets, they would not be able to do anything. Little Chen Er, Bai Su looked at the scheming old Madame Yu and his heart sank. I'll send you back to your mother. Bai Xiaochen did not leave with Bai Xiao. He blinked his innocent big eyes, and a sinister light flashed past them. Sure, I'll go see my grandfather. Humph. That bad old man bullied her mother and her uncle. Then this time, he would go and meet him. Old Madame Yu's smile was a little smug, but her smile didn't last long before it was interrupted by a group of people. Little fellow, you must not go to the Bai family with her. She just called you a bastard. You will definitely be bullied after you go to the Bai family. 6 years ago, Bai Yan had left without saying goodbye. The Bai family had spread the news that she had eloped with someone else. In addition, old Madame Yu had fainted on the spot. Everyone had thought that she had deep feelings for Bai Yan, which was why she could not take this blow. However, after the morning court assembly just now, there had long been rumors that the man who had once had an affair with Bai Yan was the Kang Emperor. It was still the Kang Emperor who had been plotted against and had no choice but to force Bai Yan, causing her to secretly conceive. In this case, the elopement that the Bai family had mentioned was not valid. More importantly, if the Bai family had really seen Bai Yan eloping with their own eyes, why did they not stop her? It was obvious that there was something they didn't know. Coupled with the fact that old Madame Yu had just insulted Bai Xiaochen as a bastard child, it could be seen that this old Madame Yu's feelings for Bai Yan were not as deep as the rumors made it out to be. Uncles and aunties, Bai Xiaochen very politely bowed to everyone. At that time, during the Lan family's banquet, my mother had already drawn a clear line between the Bai family and the Lan family. However, this old granny still wanted to pester me endlessly and randomly claim that she was related to me. She even used the reason that I wasn't returning to the Bai family as an excuse and made mother suffer humiliation. As mother's son, Chen Er is not willing to see mother being insulted by others. As such, Chen Er will go back with her. Chapter 111 111 Chapter 111 The Bai family's death-seeking. Everyone sighed in their hearts. Such a sensible child, but someone didn't even let a child off. Even if his mother had made a mistake, he was innocent. Especially when she called them uncle and auntie, it was so soft that it touched their hearts and made them feel bad for her. Moreover, Yingluo Bai Xiaochen gave a mischievous smile. Chen Er has father and mother to back her up. I'm not afraid of her. The people who were still sighing immediately reacted when they heard this. That's right, De Kang had already publicly announced that Bai Yan was his woman. Didn't this prove that this little fellow was his son? Old Madame Yu wanted to touch Prince Kang's son. What gave her the courage to do so? However, faced with everyone's pitying eyes, old Madame Yu did not think too much. She clearly knew that the one who had drugged Bai Yan back then was Bai Ruo. Even the man who had an affair with Bai Yan was found by Bai Ruo. How could he have become the Kang Emperor? Bai Xiaochen was even more impossible to be his son. Men, bring the little lord back. Old Madame Yu ordered sternly. Bai Xiaochen did not even look at old Madame Yu and continued to speak to the crowd. Uncle, aunt, my mother will definitely come to find me later. Please tell her that I'm going to stay at the Bai residence for a night and will return tomorrow morning. He didn't plan to stay in the Bai family for long. Otherwise, he would destroy the Bai family and have nothing to play with in the future. After saying this, Bai Xiaochen held Bai Xiao's hand and walked in the direction of the Bai family. Xiaomi, who was lying on his shoulder, raised its head slightly and looked at old Madame Yu behind him. A trace of pity appeared in its eyes. It really didn't understand why this old witch was so depressed. She felt that her life wasn't vigorous enough and wanted to invite this little ancestor back. By the time Bai Yan rushed over, Bai Xiaochen had already left. When the people around her spoke one after another about the course of the matter, her eyes narrowed slightly. Miss Bai, your son has been taken away by old Madame Yu. He'll definitely be bullied by her. You'd better go and bring him back. A member of the crowd said kindly. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up as she faintly replied, I know. If little Chen Er was not willing, no one could force him. This little fellow must have been too bored in Luhuo Kingdom, so he wanted to go to the Bai family to cause trouble. If he wanted to play, what was the harm in letting him? Moreover, the Bai family had delivered themselves to their doorstep, so they could not blame anyone. No one stopped the disturbance on the street. Instead, through the words of some people, it reached De Kang's ears. When he heard that old Madame Yu insulted Bai Xiaochen as a bastard child, his face sank, and his expression was dark and cold. Send a message to the Criminal Investigation Department, ask them to increase Bai Ji's punishment. If you ask the reason, Zhen Zhen will tell him that the Yu family said something that should not be said. He had offended someone he should not have offended. The guard replied respectfully, but, little young Master Bai. He did not understand why His Highness had to treat Bai Yan's son so specially just to pursue Bai Yan. You're asking for trouble by leading the fox into the house. Dick Hang's domineering 8 words made the guard's expression freeze. Lure the fox into the house? What did that mean? Don't worry about little Chen Er entering the Bai family, he won't suffer a loss. However, this didn't mean that he could tolerate anyone bullying his son Yingluo. Yes, sir. The guard cupped his fists and left. After he left, Dick Hang looked at the lake not far away with an expressionless face. The corners of his lips curled into a cold and evil arc. Bai family's Qian. He really liked to court death. Chapter 112. 112 Chapter 112 Naughty Child. Bai Manor. Bai Xiaochen was carrying a little white tiger in his arms as he followed behind the servant girl silently. After a while, the maidservant stopped and pointed to the woodshed in front of them. This is where you will be staying today. Woodshed. Bai Xiao, who had come because he was worried about Bai Xiaochen, saw the woodshed that the servant girl had led him into, and his handsome face was immediately shrouded in a cold light. Chen Er is not only my sister's child, but also my nephew. His lips curled into a cold smile. Who allowed you to arrange for him to stay in the woodshed? This is the old madam's arrangement, the servant girl bit her lips. Old madam. Bai Yan sneered. What kind of old madam is she? He's just an outsider, what right does he have to make decisions for the Bai family? Under Bai Su's pressure, the maidservant did not dare to speak. Although the old madam was an outsider, the head of the family had to obey her. Who would dare to disobey the old madam's words? Young master, please don't make things difficult for this servant. Otherwise, when the master comes back, he'll come back and take a look. Shut up. Bai Xiao shouted. Go back and tell her that I'll make arrangements for Chen Er. There's no need for an outsider to meddle in our business. After saying this, Bai Su did not look at the maidservant again. He bent down and picked up the little bun in front of him. His voice was gentle, and his eyes were soft. Chen Er, you'll sleep with me tonight. I'll send you to sister's place tomorrow. There should be a side room next to uncle, right? Bai Xiaoqin's eyes flickered a few times, and he smiled innocently. It's enough for Chen Er to stay in the side room. In addition, no matter what happens today, uncle, don't come over. Just treat it as if nothing happened. Bai Su was stunned. When he lowered his eyes, he met a pair of black eyes, which made his heart shake. He muttered, all right, I'll do as you say. This little fellow was completely unlike a 5-year-old child. He was so mature that even an adult like him would feel ashamed of his inferiority. Xiaomi, let's go. Bai Xiaoqin's smile was very cute, and his eyes seemed to be shining. His eyes were very similar to Dick Hang's, both of them had a pair of cunning fox eyes. At this moment, in the east room, Yurong stood up with a whoosh, her expression ugly. Mother, why did you bring that little bastard back? Bai Yan's son actually did not suffer a miscarriage. Moreover, Yingluo was such an insensible brat who did not even know how to respect the elderly. What future would such a child have in the future? Back then, I failed to sell Bai Yan. Now, I'll sell her son. A cold glint flashed past old Madame Yu's eyes. The moment she thought of how she had lost a medicinal pill 6 years ago because of that B*TCH Bai Yan, her heart twitched in pain. Yurong was a little surprised and said in a conflicted tone, Mother, the reason why we were able to sell Bai Yan in the past was because Zhenxiang was not at home. No matter how biased Zhenxiang is towards us, he would not sell his flesh and blood. Therefore, if you want to sell that brat, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. In reality, when Lan Yu was still alive back then, Bai Zhenxiang had also treated his daughter Bai Yan extremely well. Even during the period of time before Yurong became the matriarch of the household, Bai Zhenxiang had not done anything to harm Bai Yan. In order to push Bai Yan down, Yurong and her daughter had said all sorts of slanderous words in front of Bai Zhenxiang. In addition, Bai Yan's previous self did not know how to scheme and was unable to win against Yurong and her daughter. This made Bai Zhenxiang increasingly disappointed in this daughter. In the end, she was so disappointed that she lost all her feelings for him. However, having no feelings for him did not mean that Bai Zhenxiang would sell his daughter for a medicinal pill. Unless there were enough benefits, he might not agree to Wan's request. Chapter 113 113 Chapter 113 Lady Chu. Idiot. Old Madam Yu berated angrily, Bai Zhenxiang wants to curry favor with Phoenix House. If you can use Bai Xiaochen to build a relationship with Phoenix House, do you think that Bai Zhenxiang will still blame you harshly because of this? Now, while Bai Zhenxiang is not around, you should immediately go and coax that kid and make him obediently follow us to Phoenix House. If we really can't do it, we can only use force. Old Madam Yu's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Hard. Yurong was startled and her willowy brows furrowed slightly. But, mother, we still don't know if Phoenix House will accept that brat. How about this? I'll get someone to draw a portrait and send it to Phoenix House first. If Phoenix House takes a fancy to him, we'll let the people of Phoenix House personally come and take him away. In this way, this matter would have nothing to do with them. Even if Bai Yan were to look for them, she would not be able to find them. If she had the ability, she would go to Phoenix House to find her son. But did she dare to? With this kid's looks, Phoenix House will definitely agree. In any case, this brat had the Bai family's bloodline. If she wanted to sell him, he could only accept it obediently. Mother, Yurong smiled, I met someone by chance some time ago. Can you guess who that person was? Speaking up to this point, Yurong paused and then continued, she's from the Phoenix House. Even if she's just a brothel keeper, she has a connection with the Phoenix House. I plan to go to her first. If she agrees, this matter will be settled. In fact, there was a reason why she dared to be so brazen. Phoenix House would never betray any employer, so she did not need to worry about Bai Yan finding out about this matter. Moreover, so what if Bai Yan knew? With her strength, how could she compete with the Bai family? Old Madam Yu's eyes lit up, go and find that madam immediately. After this matter is done, Bai Zhenxiang will definitely be grateful to you. Using Bai Yan's son to strike up a conversation with someone from Phoenix House, that was straight. Yurong simply didn't say anything more. After disguising herself, she walked out. Not long ago, the incident of her stripping naked in public had already spread throughout Luhuo Kingdom. Hence, she had specially covered her face when she went out this time, afraid that those people would notice her. On the west street of Luhuo Kingdom, a group of women with thick makeup were waving their handkerchiefs to welcome the guests. In this west street, the most special one was the Phoenix House. A normal brothel would only receive male guests, and only the men and women of the Phoenix House would receive them. Even so, women still had more self-respect than men, so no woman would step into this kind of territory. Therefore, when everyone saw Yurong who had stepped into the main hall, their eyes all revealed astonishment. Oh, is this lady here for excitement? A gorgeously dressed woman fluttered over like a butterfly. Her smile was like a flower, and her eyes were ambiguous. Our Phoenix House has everything, especially that Xiao Mo who came a few days ago. She's really soft and delicate, and even her work is first class. I wonder if this madam is interested. Yurong furrowed her brows and a trace of disgust appeared in her eyes. She deliberately lowered her voice and said, Mother Chu, it's me. I've come to ask for your help. Mother Chu looked at the masked woman in front of her in surprise. It's you. Can we go in and talk? Yurong's voice was very low as her eyes vigilantly scanned the surroundings. Mother Chu's eyes flashed with a seductive smile. All right, come with me. Hearing this, Yurong heaved a sigh of relief. She must use this opportunity to curry favor with the guardian elders of the Phoenix House. Chapter 114. 114 I am his grandmother. In the private room, there was a soothing fragrance. Yurong's heart was very uncomfortable when she smelled this. She went straight to the point and said, I have a child in my hands. He looks very proper and is even more beautiful than the fairy child in the sky. I can sell him to your Phoenix House. Mother Chu raised her eyebrows. Didn't the Bai clan only have one child who was the eldest grandson of the emperor? Could it be that she was so audacious as to want to sell a member of the royal family? Madam Bai, as far as I know, your Bai clan only has one child, and that's the son of the crown princess. You want to sell the imperial grandson to our Phoenix House? No. Yurong hurriedly shook her head. I still have a maternal grandson. He is Bai Yan's son. I have a portrait of him here. You can take a look. After saying this, Yurong immediately took out the portrait that she had rushed over to and laid it down in front of Mother Chu. Looking at the portrait in front of her, Mother Chu's face was full of smiles, but her eyes were cold. Madam Bai, I heard that Bai Yan's mother is Lan Yu. In that case, you are not considered this child's maternal grandmother. Then do you have the right to decide whether he lives or dies? This Yurong was truly audacious to the extreme. He even dared to sell his master's child. But of all people, why did she have to sell it to their Phoenix House? Mother Chu, you don't know about this. Yurong smiled slightly. Bai Yan's mother died early and I'm her mother. It's only natural for me to want to sell my own grandson. It's just that you've seen this child's appearance as well. He's definitely the best of the best. If you're not satisfied, then bring Bai Yan along. I only have one condition. I want to see the owner of Phoenix House. Or an elder or protector will do. This was her motive for planning to sell Bai Xiaochen. The Phoenix House has a rule that anyone who comes to sell their body must have the consent of the person in question. Otherwise, we will not accept anyone. Mother Chu slowly stood up. So, you should leave. I can't break the rules for you. Mother Chu. Yurong immediately stood up, her eyes filled with anxiety. This child's temper is too stubborn. Unless your Phoenix House takes action, otherwise. Men, send the guest away. After throwing out the sentence, Mother Chu did not pay any more attention to Yurong and quickly walked out of Phoenix House. After leaving the Phoenix House, Mother Chu turned back to look. Seeing that no one was following her, she quickly headed in the direction of the old residence. Mother Chu's luck was really good. Just as she reached the old house, she bumped into Hualuo, who was about to go out. She hurriedly steadied her steps and cupped her fists. Greetings, Tower Master. Seeing Mother Chu running over, Hualuo raised her eyebrows. You came to find me. Tower Lord, Yurong came just now, and Qian even brought a portrait of Little Master. At that moment, Hualuo's face turned cold. And then, she requested to see you, Tower Master. She said that she wanted to sell Little Master to our Phoenix House. Sell Bai Xiaochen to Phoenix House. Hearing this, Hualuo laughed. That devastatingly beautiful smile was filled with mockery. The corners of her lips were slightly raised, forming a mocking arc. With Little Master's intelligence and wisdom, the Bai family can forget about having any ideas about him. You continue to get close to wrong. Report to me immediately if there's anything. Mother Chu was taken aback. She pouted her lips in grievance. When will this mission end? I'll go crazy sooner or later if I have to deal with that disgusting woman every day. Ever since she got close to Yurong, Yurong had repeatedly asked her to make connections to meet the Tower Master. In the end, she stopped her wishful thinking by saying that her status in the Phoenix House was low and she had no right to meet the Tower Master. Chapter 115. 115 Murder and Arson, 1. You can rest when Master has completely destroyed the Bai family. Exterminate the Bai family. Mother Chu pursed her lips. How long would she have to wait? Mother Chu will take her leave. Mother Chu knew Hualuo's personality and knew that she would not take back her words. No matter how unwilling she was, she could only continue to approach that woman. At the same time, Yurong returned to the Bai manor with an anxious expression after seeing Mother Chu. She bit her lips and a malicious glint flashed across her eyes. She quickly walked towards the side room in the east courtyard. In the room, Bai Xiaochen was currently teasing Xiaomi when he suddenly heard the sound of hurried footsteps outside the door. A brilliant smile appeared on his cute little face. Xiaomi, she's here. As soon as she finished speaking, the door was pushed open. Yurong, dressed in gorgeous and noble clothes, walked in from the outside. She deliberately squeezed out a smile on her face. You must be Chen Er? I'm your maternal grandmother. Really? Bai Xiaochen crawled up from the ground, his large eyes flickering. Chen Er also has a maternal grandmother. When she saw the little bun's innocent appearance, Yurong's eyes flashed with disdain. He was just an ordinary child, and she didn't know how he had angered her mother. It's true, Yurong said with a fake smile. When your mother was still alive, grandmother doted on her the most. It's a pity that your mother was too unfilial and did immoral things. It's a pity that I worry about her every day. Bai Xiaoqin's smile became even more innocent. But, mother told Chen Er that maternal grandmother died a long time ago. The one living in the Bai family is an old witch. I wonder if you're that old witch? In an instant, the smile on Yurong's face froze. She was so furious that she wanted to slap this little bastard to death. However, when she thought of her purpose for coming here, Yurong forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart and laughed dryly. You must have remembered it wrong. What your mother wanted to tell you was that I was your maternal grandmother, and the one who died was the witch who specialized in seducing men. Even though Lan Yu was already dead, Yurong's hatred for her had already seeped deep into her bones. If it wasn't for the slut, she wouldn't have been a concubine for so many years. Did you bring any candy for Chen Er? Bai Xiaochen looked up with his big, watery eyes, and his voice was very soft. He was indeed a child. Yurong laughed sarcastically and took out a handful of jelly beans from her pocket. She had a smile on her face, but her eyes were sinister. Chen Er, these jelly beans are your cousin's favorite. Your cousin is the emperor's eldest grandson and is loved by everyone. Before she could finish speaking, Bai Xiaochen grabbed a sweet bean and put it in his mouth. However, he had not even taken a bite when he spat it out with a pay sound. His small hands were on his hips as he said angrily. Even my Xiaomi doesn't want to eat such unpalatable candy, and you still dare to give it to me to eat. Mother was right, you're an old witch. Yurong's face turned from green to white, and then from white to green again. She gritted her teeth fiercely. You're really worthy of being the son of that little B*tch Bai Yan. No wonder my mother would be angered half to death by you and not have any manners at all. If Bai Yan doesn't know how to teach her son, then I will directly hand you over to the people in Phoenix House. They will teach you well. At that time, you will definitely not be able to live or die. When Yurong revealed her true colors, Bai Xiaochen was too lazy to disguise himself. What's so hard about you? You want to sell this Bao to Phoenix House? Xiaomi, who was licking its paws at the side, nodded its head in agreement. Why was this woman so foolish to want to sell Little Master to Phoenix House? Chapter 116 116 Murder and Arson, 2. Bai Xiaochen. Yurong gritted her teeth. As a descendant of the Bai family, you should work for our Bai family. Your grandfather wants to curry favor with Phoenix House now. You must go to Phoenix House voluntarily. Mother said that the entire Bai family is human traffickers. Baby didn't believe it at first, but now I believe it. Bai Xiaochen was innocent and pure. But mother also told baby that baby should be happy to help others, so baby can remind you that you have a biological grandson. You can go and sell him. His little expression was very proud, as if waiting for Yurong to praise him. Yurong was already mad with anger. Indeed, like mother, like son. 6 years ago, Bai Yan had also told her that if she wanted to sell, she could sell Ger and Ruoer. Did she not look at her own status? How could she be compared to Ruoer and the others? Bai Xiaochen, let me tell you this. As your maternal grandmother, I have the right to decide your life and death. Yurong arrogantly raised her chin. Besides, my family's Lin Er is the eldest imperial grandson. Not only did the phenomenon of 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors descend from the heavens when he was born, but he's also going to unify the world in the future. How can a little bastard like you compare to Lin Er? Are you even worthy? Bai Xiaoqin's eyes turned cold. What he hated the most was for people to call him a bastard. Xiaomi, scratch her for this bao bao. Meow. Xiaomi's body turned into an arc and immediately charged in front of Yurong. Its sharp claws cut open her chest and instantly, her entire clothes were dyed red with blood. Yurong cried out in pain and was furious, D*mn cat, get lost. She threw a slap at Xiaomi, but Xiaomi deftly dodged it. Its claws swiped over again, especially in hidden places. It was so painful that Yurong's voice was heart-wrenching. Bai Xiaochen sat down excitedly. His small hand propped up his cheek, and he watched with great interest as Yurong was being tortured. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to observe for too long before the Bai family's guards heard the commotion and came over. With a single glance, they saw the trembling Yurong. Madam. They walked over quickly, and it was also at this moment that Xiaomi had already returned to Bai Xiaoqin's side. Beat that little cat to death and lock this little bastard up. Yurong trembled as she pointed at Bai Xiaochen and roared in anger. She had never been treated like this before. This little cat was really looking for death. Xiaomi licked its claws and its mocking gaze swept towards the group of guards who had surrounded it, its eyes revealing a touch of disdain. That disdain completely infuriated Yurong. What are you still standing there for? Go. Yes, madam. The guards quivered and immediately drew their weapons. Bai Xiaochen looked at this group of guards who were surrounding him, and a red light flashed past his foxy eyes. It was also at this moment that the guards suddenly stopped in their tracks. It was as if they had rooted themselves to the ground and were unable to move an inch. What are you guys doing? Yurong roared in anger and glared fiercely at Bai Xiaochen. No matter how he looked at it, this child's smile was very hateful. Bai Xiaochen tilted his small head and smiled innocently. Old witch, I heard that you bullied mother and uncle back then. At a time like this, how could Yurong not know that this little bastard's naivete and innocence were all an act? His heart was more cunning than a fox. Bai Xiaochen grinned as he stretched out a finger. With a swish, an emerald green foxfire burned on the tip of his finger. Xiaomi, we haven't set a fire for a long time. The last time we set a fire, we burned down Grand Master's treasure pavilion. Although the Bai family's treasure pavilion can't compare to Grand Master's, there are still some treasures that can be burned. Chapter 117. 117 The Rascal Who Set Fire. Yurong's eyes changed from the initial shock to horror, and her voice was sharp. What do you want to do? I was just scaring you, I didn't expect you to take it seriously. This Bai family will all be uncles in the future. This Bao Bao will not bear to burn uncle's property. Uncle said that the reason why he didn't leave the Bai family was that he didn't want the Bai family, which relied on his grandmother to prosper, to be snatched by these bad women. You coward! Yurong gritted her teeth and pointed at Bai Xiaochen in a towering rage. You dare to scare me? If you still don't want to leave, this Bao Bao will set fire to your house right now. Bai Xiaochen was young, but he already had a domineering aura. His voice was no longer as soft as before, but had a hint of stiffness to it. Do you think you can leave after coming to our Bai family? Yurong gritted her teeth viciously. Wait for your grandfather to return. I'll get him to teach you a lesson. After saying this, Yurong snorted and turned around to leave with the group of guards, slamming the door shut with a bang. After they left the room, Yurong angrily turned to the guards beside her. What a bunch of trash. You can't even handle a child. Madam, please. One of the guards replied weakly, the cat beside the child seems to be a demonic beast. I don't know what he did to us, but we can't move at all. A demonic beast. These two words caused Yurong's eyes to darken a little. She snorted coldly and said, even demonic beasts are divided into strong and weak. It's just a little cat, how powerful can it be? When Zhenxiang returns, I want him to teach this little bastard a lesson. The moment she thought of Bai Xiaoqin's words, her expression turned even uglier. She was in a daze. It was night. The moon was like water. Yurong was anxiously waiting for Bai Zhengxiang's return. However, Bai Zhenxiang had been running around everywhere for Bai Ji's sake and had yet to return. At this moment, in the courtyard, a ray of fire lit up the sky, illuminating the entire Bai family's sky. Yurong immediately stood up and asked with an unsightly expression. Madam. Suddenly, a guard barged in. Under Yurong's threatening gaze, he knelt on the ground with a plop. It seems that there was a fire in young master's side room. Bai Yan's side room. Wasn't that the place where Bai Xiaochen lived? Yurong's eyes suddenly darkened, and she shouted sternly, what are you still doing? Hurry up and put out the fire. Although she hated Bai Xiaochen, if she allowed Bai Xiaochen to die in the fire, then her losses would not be small. Yes, madam. The guards retreated. For a moment, the entire Bai residence was filled with the sound of people putting out the fire. The person closest to Bai Xiaochen was surprisingly Bai Xiao. When he sensed the flames coming from the side, he ran out at the first moment and quickly rushed towards the sea of fire. The guards of the Bai family saw Bai Su approaching and immediately blocked his way. Young master, you can't go in. Bai Su's eyes were filled with anger, and his voice was cold, don't make me say it a second time. The person in this room was his nephew, how could he just stand by and watch? If Chen Er was really in danger in the Bai family, he would never forgive himself. Young master, the fire is very strong. You really can't go in. As soon as the guard finished speaking, Bai Su punched him in the chest, sending him flying. If something happens to Chen Er, then I'll let Yurong be buried with her. He was about to rush into the sea of fire after saying this, but at this moment, a soft voice came from behind him, causing his body to suddenly freeze. Chapter 118 118 Bai Xiaochen is the scheming B*TCH, 1. Uncle, what are you doing? This voice was very familiar, so familiar that it made Bai Yan's tears flow. He slowly turned his head, and in an instant, a small figure appeared in his eyes. At this moment, Bai Xiaoqin's hair was a little messy, his face was dirty, and there were a few large holes in his clothes. Even that white cat of his had a few strands of hair on its head that looked as if it had been burnt. In a few steps, Bai Xiao had already arrived in front of Bai Xiaochen. He pulled the little one in front of him into his embrace and hugged this small body tightly, his body trembling violently. It's good that you're fine, Yingluo. It's good that you're fine, Yingluo. Bai Xiaochen seemed to have sensed the fear in Bai Xiao's heart and did not move, obediently allowing Bai Xiao to hug him tightly. Tell uncle, what happened? After a long time, Bai Xiao finally let go of Bai Xiaoqin's body. His voice was still trembling. If Bai Xiaochen was unable to escape, then wouldn't he never be able to see this little person again in his life? Uncle. Bai Xiaochen shrank his body into Bai Xiao's embrace a few times, his small face pitiful. Chen Er wants to go home. These people in the Bai family are all bad people. Okay, uncle will take you home. Bai Xiao's heart ached when he saw the little bun's aggrieved expression. He picked him up from the ground and slowly walked out of the Bai manor. Coincidentally, old Madame Yu and Yurong also brought people to put out the fire, but when they saw that Bai Xiao was about to leave with Bai Xiaochen, they immediately flew into a rage. Bai Ling, where are you guys going? Bai Su's lips curled into a cold smile. Send him back to his mother. Who allowed you to leave this place? Yurong's eyes turned cold, and she ordered sternly, without my words, no one can think of leaving Bai Manor today. She was still hoping to use this little bastard to curry favor with the Phoenix House, so how could she allow him to leave? If he let him go, wouldn't his plan be ruined? Bai Xiaochen looked at Bai Xiao's tightly clenched fists and hooked his arms around the young man's neck. Uncle, run! Run! Bai Su did not hesitate any longer. He dashed out of the mansion like a bolt of lightning. Chase them, don't let them run out. Yurong stomped her foot in a towering rage, then ordered a maidservant beside her, immediately go and find the family head. Bai Su's speed was very fast, and he had already escaped the Bai Manor in just a short while. The moment he left the Bai Manor, Bai Xiaochen suddenly burst out crying. He wailed pitifully, and it also attracted the passers-by on the side of the road. In a day's time, the entire imperial city had spread the news of Bai Yan's son who had given birth before marriage. As such, when they heard the cries and looked at the little bun in Bai Yan's arms, everyone already knew his identity. Chen Er, don't cry. Uncle will bring you to your mother now. I will never bring you back to the Bai family again. Bai Xiao looked at Bai Xiaoqin's face that was covered in tears, and his heart ached so much that it was difficult for him to extricate himself. No matter how mature this child's temperament was, he was still a child. The fire just now must have frightened him, Yingluo. At this time, the Bai family's guards had already caught up, surrounding Bai Xiao and Bai Xiaochen in the middle. After Bai Xiaochen saw Yurong walking out of the Bai manor, he cried even louder. Weavuo, I beg you not to sell Chen Er. Don't set fire to Chen Er. Chen Er is really very obedient. Uncle, Chen Er wants to find mother. I don't want to go to Phoenix House. Chapter 119. 119 Bai Xiaochen is the scheming B*TCH, 2. Bai Xiaochen leaned against Bai Xiao's neck and cried so hard that he couldn't control himself. The crowd instantly exploded. Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment, shock, and disbelief. The Bai family was actually going to sell their own grandson to Phoenix House? He even wanted to set fire to him. They never knew that the madam of the Bai family was such a cruel person. He could actually do such an immoral thing. What nonsense are you spouting? Yurong was so angry that her face turned ashen. It was true that she wanted to sell him, but when did she set him on fire? Bai Xiaoqin's body trembled. Perhaps he was frightened by Yurong's angry roar, and he shrank into Bai Xiao's arms again. Bai Xiao's heart ached even more, and he gently rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head. Little Chen Er, don't be afraid. With uncle here, no one can hurt you. Tell uncle, what happened? Uncle, will you sell Chen Er? Bai Xiaoqin's dirty little face was a little pale. He looked at Bai Xiao pitifully. Chen Er is really very well behaved and obedient. Don't sell Chen Er, okay. At this moment, Bai Yan's heart felt as if it was being gripped by a claw. It was so painful that he furrowed his brows, but his voice was as gentle as ever. Don't worry, I won't sell you out. Then Chen Er can be at ease. Bai Xiaochen slowly let out a sigh of relief. Just now, this old granny claimed to be Chen Er's maternal grandmother. She asked Chen Er to go to Phoenix House voluntarily. Chen Er was unwilling and wanted to go back to find mother. However, She said that in this world, only maternal grandmother and maternal grandfather can make decisions for me. It's useless to find mother. In that instant, looks of disdain and loathing fell on Yurong. Under these gazes, Yurong's entire body trembled as she pointed at Bai Xiaochen in anger. Bai Xiaochen, if you slander me again, be careful that I'll tear your mouth apart. Bai Xiaochen's body trembled, and he covered his head in front of Bai Xiao's chest. Uncle, Chen Er is so scared just now. Chen Er was unwilling to go to Phoenix House, so she took a liking to Chen Er and even threatened to burn Chen Er to death if Chen Er didn't listen. Bai Xiaochen's voice was pitiful. At first, Chen Er thought that she was threatening me, but who knew that there would really be a fire at night if it wasn't for Xiaomi running quickly with Chen Er, Uncle wouldn't have been able to see Chen Er again. Bai Xiao's heart was filled with regret and guilt. He regretted bringing Bai Xiaochen to the Bai family and felt guilty that he was unable to protect him well, causing him to suffer such a shock. However, Bai Xiaochen could sense the emotions in Bai Xiao's heart and tightened his grip on Bai Xiao's small hand. For the sake of his mother, he could only let his uncle worry for a while. He would explain to his uncle when he returned. Don't listen to his nonsense. Yurong had completely gone crazy. Her gaze was filled with madness as she shouted loudly, he is the son of that B*tch Bai Yan. He is definitely not a good person. He's trying to frame me. Everyone scoffed at these words. How could a 5-year-old child lie? Moreover, this child was already scared out of his wits, so how could he still sort out his lies? Yurong shouted angrily, you were the one who let that cat scratch me. Now you're framing me. Do you have no shame? Madam Bai Su said through gritted teeth. He sneered, there are so many guards in the Bai manor, and your strength is not bad. How could you be scratched by a kitten? Do you think people will believe you? That's not an ordinary kitten, it's a demonic beast. Yurong gritted her teeth. Chapter 120. 120 Fall from Grace, 1. A demonic beast. Everyone was stunned and turned to look at the little white cat on Bai Ling's shoulder. Meow, she said. The little white cat licked its paws. Its azure blue eyes were as clear as a spring. I'm just an ordinary cat. I don't understand what you're talking about. An ordinary little white cat, and you call it a demonic beast. Madam Bai's excuse is really laughable. I do believe this child's words. If what he said is false, then his acting is too realistic. How can a 5-year-old act so well? Listening to the voices of these discussions, Yurong's expression became extremely ugly. Her angry eyes swept across the crowd, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. If I hear anyone frame me again, don't blame me for being impolite. This sentence was still very intimidating. After her voice fell, the street returned to its calm state. Yurong sneered. As long as she didn't admit it, what could these people do to her? Oh, Madam Bai, your Bai manner is really lively. A flirtatious voice suddenly sounded, causing Yurong's face to freeze. She raised her head and saw a woman coming from the back of the crowd. With an awkward expression, she said, why are you here? Almost everyone in the imperial city knew Lady Chu from the Phoenix House. In addition, Chun Niang's backer was the Phoenix House. She was an existence that no one in the imperial city dared to offend. Now that he saw that she and Yurong knew each other, he guessed in his heart, could it be that Suanji and Yurong really had a relationship with Phoenix House? I've asked the guardian of our Phoenix House just now, and I'm very interested in that grandson you mentioned. What's his name again? I wonder where it is. Mother Chu's smile was as beautiful as a flower, and she didn't care about the gazes of the people around her. Yurong's face paled, and she retorted, I don't know what you're talking about. In an instant, Mother Chu's face darkened. What's wrong? Do you want to go back on your word? Who came to Phoenix House to find me today and said that he wanted to sell his grandson to me? Now that I've finally used the portrait you gave me to attract the Guardian's attention, you want to go back on your word. The crowd was in an uproar. She said that Bai Xiaoqin's words were slander, but what about Mother Chu from Phoenix House? There was no enmity between them, so why did he have to wrong her? Yurong's lips trembled slightly. Why did Mother Chu appear at this time? She felt that everything that happened today was planned. Yurong. Bai Yu clenched her fists tightly, her eyes bloodshot. What kind of maternal grandmother are you? My mother is already dead. You're just a vicious woman with the heart of a snake. Chen Er is only a child, but you want to sell him to the Phoenix House. Yurong felt as if her head was about to explode and she staggered a few steps. She only knew that the image she had painstakingly built for so many years had been destroyed. Move, move. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Immediately after, a few guards swept away the crowd blocking the way and let an old man walk to the front of the crowd. I'm the Qian clan steward, Qian Fang. I'm here to ask you wrong for medicinal pills. Qian Fang strode forward and looked down from above. Madam Bai Yan from your Bai Manor has already returned. Why didn't you inform me? My family's old family head is still waiting to take Bai Yan as a concubine. Don't forget, 6 years ago, your brother was just short of a third-grade medicinal pill to break through. You personally came to the Qian family and said that you wanted to sell Bai Yan to my family's old family head. In the end, Bai Yan escaped and you did not return the medicinal pill. Return the betrothal gifts immediately. Chapter 121. 121 Fall from Grace, 2. Yurong's head buzzed. Now that she heard the Qian clan's extortion, she was instantly enraged from embarrassment and blurted out a sentence without even thinking. Don't try to extort me. I have already returned the pill to your Qian family back then. What are you doing here now? When she opened her mouth, old Madame Yu's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to reach out and cover her mouth, but it was already too late. Yurong's words had already been spoken. Everyone's head exploded. This matter was too exciting, so exciting that they couldn't react for a while. So it turned out that back then, Bai Yan's disappearance was not because she had eloped with someone, but because the Bai family wanted to sell her to the old man as a concubine. She had no choice but to escape. Yurong. Bai Su gently closed his eyes and only opened them after a long time. A cold glint flashed through his bloodthirsty eyes. 6 years ago, my sister was forced to leave by you. You thought that you hadn't hurt her enough and even slandered her, causing her to lose all her reputation. But, everything you eat, wear, and use were brought by my mother. In the end, you treat my sister like this. The funny thing was that back then, he had resented Bai Yan, resented her for leaving without saying goodbye, and hated her for not taking him away with her. Only now did he understand how deeply humiliated his sister was when she left. I'm sorry. Yurong's lips trembled slightly. Her face was pale and her body was weak. She couldn't even say a word. Everything was over. Yurong felt a dejection she had never felt before, like a rooster whose comb had been stomped on, and she could no longer be proud. Uncle, Chen Er wants to go home. Bai Xiaoqin's arms were wrapped around Bai Xiao's neck, and his eyes flickered, bright and dazzling. All right, let's go home. In the future, don't come to such a foul place again. Bai Xiao hugged the little bun tightly in his arms. From now on, no matter what, he would never let his sister and Chen Er come to any harm. When Bai Xiao carried Bai Xiao Chen back to the old house, he actually discovered that Mother Chu was also there. He was a little surprised, and his gaze was puzzled. Mother, Aunt Hua. Bai Xiao Chen broke free from Bai Xiao's embrace and ran over to Bai Yan's side, planting a kiss on her face with a swoosh. Mother, Chen Er has helped you solve the hidden danger today. Even if we fight against the Bai family in the future, no one will say that Mother is in the wrong. Bai Yan looked at Bai Xiaoqin's dirty little face and raised her hand to pinch his little nose. Why is your face so dirty? Go and wash your face. This is all Xiaomi's fault. Bai Xiaoqian pouted his small mouth. I already said that it was enough to just tear my clothes, but he insisted on making my face dirty. Mother doesn't like dirty children. Xiaomi must be jealous of mother's love for him, so it made him dirty. You still dare to say who started the fire? Xiaomi rolled its eyes and said in disdain. Bai Xiaoqian placed his hands on his hips. If I didn't do this, he said, would I have escaped from the fire? Bai Su was completely stunned by the conversation between the man and the beast. What's going on with this Kazaya? Uncle. Bai Xiaoqian turned his head to look at the young man behind him who had a dumbfounded expression on his face. I didn't mean to scare you. It's just that I didn't want anyone to say anything bad about mother, so I took the risk. In the future, no one will humiliate mother anymore. Bai Ling came back to his senses and felt a little complicated. What exactly had his sister and nephew gone through all these years to make this little guy so sensible? Chapter 122. 122 Did I owe you a favor in my previous life? He was so sensible that he didn't seem like a 5-year-old child. Mother. Bai Xiaoqian blinked his innocent eyes. Mother Chu went in time just now. Did you order her to go? Bai Ling was startled. His words made him turn to look at Mother Chu again. Mother Chu was from Phoenix House, so why did little Chen Er use the word command? Just now, Xiaomi came back and told me about your motive. I let Mother Chu go as a witness. Bai Yan's willow brows furrowed slightly. Although you did a beautiful job this time, Wan Wan is not allowed to do such a dangerous thing again. Do you understand? Bai Xiaoqian pouted. Chen Er only doesn't want the world to misunderstand mother. Chen Er just didn't want the world to misunderstand her mother. A warm current flowed through Bai Yan's heart as she wrapped the little bun up from the ground and let him sit on her lap. But, Ran. Bai Xiaoqian tilted his small head. Did mother also call for the people from the Jian clan to go? The Jian clan. Bai Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. She recalled that night again and a cold glint flashed past her eyes. What's going on? Why would the people from the Jian clan appear at such a critical moment? Could it be Ying Luo? Suddenly, a domineering and handsome face appeared in Bai Yan's mind, causing her eyes to be in a daze. Could it be this man's doing? Other than him, no one else had the ability to make the Jian family, one of the 3 great aristocratic families, appear. Sister. How did you get to know the people from Phoenix House? Bai Su asked with a complicated look in his eyes. Furthermore, the Phoenix House would listen to her orders. Bai Yan knew that Bai Xiao would definitely ask this question, so she did not hide it and raised the corners of her lips. The Phoenix House already belonged to me a few years ago. The one beside me is the owner of Phoenix House, Hua Luo. These words were earth-shattering, and Bai Su was stunned. Even though the Phoenix House was a second-class sect, it was on equal footing with the royal family. Such a powerful Phoenix House already belonged to his sister. More importantly, Yurong actually wanted to sell little Chen Er to Phoenix House. This Kazaya. So, Bai Yan slowly stood up and walked towards Bai Xiao. I said back then that even if you don't need the spy family, I can still conquer the entire country for you. She would never give up on her promise. Bai Su was silent. He lowered his head, and his handsome face was shrouded in the shadows. After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind and gently raised his head. What's yours will be yours in the end. As a man, how can I ask you to support me? Besides, Qian, he paused and said firmly, the Bai family is so powerful today because of mother. And I want this Bai family because I don't want mother's hard work to be destroyed in a day. His sister was already strong enough, so he could only become stronger to protect her. Elder sister. Bai Xiao stepped forward and gently hugged Bai Yan's body, a smile in his eyes. Don't worry, I won't be in any danger. No matter what, I'm the only male in this Bai family. Bai Zhenxiang won't go too far with me. Seeing that Bai Xiao was insistent, Bai Yan did not try to persuade him any further. Moreover, she had already sent people to protect him in secret, so she naturally did not need to worry about his safety. If you need anything, remember to come and find me. Bai Yan patted Bai Xiao's shoulder. Xiao you are my only younger brother in this world. Bai Su nodded with a faint smile. Elder sister, I feel that I must have owed you a favor in my previous life. That's why I'm here to repay you in this life. No matter what happens in the future, I'll always stand by your side. Sister, I'm sorry I didn't believe you back then. I didn't know you've suffered so much, Yingluo. In the future, I will definitely not let this happen. Chapter 123 123 The Shameless Bai Family, 1. Xiao so many things have happened today. I'm sure Bai Zhenxiang will take his anger out on you. Stay at my place for a few days first. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up slightly. I've already asked Hualuo to prepare a room for you. This time, Bai Su didn't refuse. He slowly nodded and said, all right, he said. They had been separated for 6 years, and the siblings had never had a good reunion. Now that Suanji was here, he was naturally reluctant to leave. At this moment, Bai Zhenxiang was busy with Bai Ji's matters but was told that Prince Kang had ordered that no one was to bail Bai Ji out. Nangongyi was also extremely busy and did not have the time to bother with him. However, at this time, the guards of the Bai manor came to report to him what had happened in the Bai family today. When he found out about this matter, Bai Zhenxiang flew into a great rage and angrily walked in the direction of the Bai manor. Even the matter of Bai Ji being deeply imprisoned was thrown to the back of his mind. They had just stepped into the Bai manor when Bai Zhenxiang, who had an ugly expression, ordered sternly, bring madam to me. The guards behind him cupped their fists respectfully and retreated. After a long time, Yurong, who was wearing a dark-colored coat, walked over slowly. Her noble face was pale and colorless at this moment, and her eyes were lifeless. When she saw Bai Zhenxiang's furious face, her body started to tremble slightly. Yurong. Bai Yan. Bai Zhenxiang shouted angrily. Back then, did you want to sell Bai Yan to the Qian family's old man to be his concubine? Plop. Yurong was so scared that she knelt on the ground and trembled. She bit her lips and explained, husband, don't listen to those people's nonsense. Qi doesn't have Qian. No? The Qian clan's people have already come to ask for pills, and you still dare to say you don't have any. Bai Zhenxiang stood up in a fit of rage and threw a slap at Yurong. This family head didn't treat your Yu family well enough? Even I, the old madam, took her in and treated you like my own mother, and even treated you as I did for the past 20 years. Yet, you want to sell my own daughter just for a pill that can help your brother break through. Yurong covered her face and looked at Bai Zhenxiang in disbelief. She and Bai Zhenxiang were childhood sweethearts and had been in love for many years. However, this was indeed the first time he had hit her. How could she not be bitterly disappointed? Husband, my younger brother is also your younger cousin. Yurong bit her lips tightly, her eyes brimming with tears. Besides, back then, Bai Yan had already lost her virginity. I only secretly resolved this matter because of the so-called mentality of not letting a family scandal be exposed. I did all this for you. Then today, why did you want to sell Bai Yan's son? Bai Zhenxiang clenched his fists tightly, anger surging in his eyes. The people of Phoenix House have always liked beautiful children. I did this only to help you build a connection with Phoenix House. Yurong slowly stood up from the ground, 2 streams of tears hanging on her pale face, looking very pitiful. Husband, Ever since I became your woman many years ago, no matter what I do in this life, it's all for your sake. It was clearly her own selfish motives. Because her younger brother was lacking a third-grade medicinal pill to break through, she had taken the initiative to sell Bai Yan. But from her mouth, it was for Bai Zhengxiang's good. You wrong, oh you wrong, you've done the stupidest thing in the world. Bai Zhenxiang slowly closed his eyes, his expression disappointed. He had been disappointed for so many years that Yu Rong's kindness was all a pretense. What was laughable was that he had even severely reprimanded Bai Yan because of this matter back then. After a long time, Bai Zhenxiang finally opened his eyes, his gaze faintly containing a haze. Do you know that the Azure Emperor announced today that Bai Yan's adulterer back then was him? If you had not made the decision to sell Bai Yan to someone else as a concubine, just based on this relationship, we would have been able to board this ship of the Azure Emperor. Chapter 124 124 The Shameless Bai Family, 2. There was one more thing that Bai Zhenxiang did not mention. From the Emperor's attitude towards Dikang at the court this morning, perhaps this prince of the opposite sex was not as simple as they had imagined. Even His Majesty listened to his words and did not hesitate to depose the Empress. If it was not for Yu Rong's stupid actions, he only needed to say a few soft words and he would be able to let Bai Yan eliminate the grudges in the past. In the future, the Bai family's status would be even more solid and unbreakable. Hubby, Yu Rong's eyes flickered a few times. I can guarantee that the man Bai Yan met back then was definitely not Dikang. It's just that I don't know what method Bai Yan used to make Dikang think that she is that woman. How could a man allow an unchanged-ass woman to stay by his side? As such, Bai Yan must have used some means to make Dikang mistakenly think that the person he had met before was her. Why are you so sure? Bai Zhenxiang swept a glance at Yu Rong and asked in a cold voice. Yu Rong gritted her teeth. 6 years ago, Bai Yan indeed had an affair with someone. She had an affair while you weren't home, and after that happened, her adulterer abandoned her. If it was in the past, Bai Zhenxiang would definitely believe Rong's words without a doubt. Now that this matter had happened, he only maintained a half-believing and half-doubting attitude towards these words. Furthermore, Qian. Yu Rong's eyes sank. Since Bai Yan no longer acknowledges the Bai family, then letting her become Kang Wangfei is very disadvantageous to our Bai family. Why don't Qian think of a way to send Ger in? The moment Bai Zhenxiang heard about this, he flew into a rage out of humiliation. Could it be that you didn't see Dikang's attitude towards Ger? Do you still expect Ger to become the Azure Emperor's residence? Prince Kang alone would be the first to disagree. Hubby, Yu Rong leisurely walked towards Bai Zhenxiang. No matter what, you're Bai Yan's father. As the saying goes, parents' orders are the words of a matchmaker. If she becomes Kang Wangfei without your permission, it's a great disrespect. When the time comes, you can suppress her a little. As long as she gives the position of Kang Wangfei to Ger and then promise her some benefits, she will not disagree. Hearing that, Bai Zhenxiang fell silent. Yu Rong was right. Rather than letting Bai Yan become Kang Wangfei, why not send Ger over? At the very least, Ger was obedient and sensible. However, Bai Yan was rather rebellious, making her even more out of his control. Besides, Yu Rong lowered her face, using her hair to cover her swollen left cheek, her voice light and gentle. Ger is her sister, what's wrong with her giving way? But the Kang Emperor. Bai Zhenxiang furrowed his brows, a trace of worry flashing past his eyes. This matter is easy to handle. Yu Rong gave a shallow smile. Isn't it because Prince Kang misunderstood that Bai Yan was that woman from 6 years ago that he would treat her differently? When the time comes, get Bai Yan to tell Prince Kang that the person who was frivolously taken advantage of by Prince Kang 6 years ago was Ger. With Prince Kang's character, he would definitely take responsibility for Ger. Prince Kang claimed that he had drugged Bai Yan 6 years ago and humiliated her. However, the truth was that Ruoer had drugged Bai Yan and found a man to humiliate her. That man was definitely not Prince Kang. Now that the Kang Emperor wanted to marry Bai Yan, wasn't it because he wanted to take responsibility? If the other party was Ger, it would be easy to become Kang Wangfei. Bai Zhenxiang was silent and his gaze was a little complicated. If it wasn't because Bai Yan was about to become Princess Kang, perhaps he would have thought of ways to make up for it when he found out the truth of her leaving. However, this girl had never listened to the rules since she was young. In addition, the Bai family's madam was wrong, so how could she still put the Bai family first? So, he had no other choice but to send Ger to the top. Chapter 125 125 The Vicious Bai Ruo, 1. Husband, seeing that Bai Zhenxiang was silent, Yurong continued, don't forget that Bai Yan's relatives still have the Lan family. The meaning of her words was that if Bai Yan were to gain power, the first one she would help would only be the Lan family. The Bai family could only sit in the back row. You don't have to say any more. Bai Zhenxiang frowned. I also understand this kind of thing. How about this, after Ger returns safely, I will go and look for Bai Yan. In reality, when Bai Ji was imprisoned, Bai Zhenxiang had also headed to the Lan family to look for Bai Yan, hoping that Bai Yan would be able to persuade Dikang to release Bai Ji. However, he was blocked outside the door by the Lan family's people. Therefore, even if he wanted to see Bai Yan now, he was unable to see her. The moment he thought of Bai Ji, Bai Zhengxiang's head started to hurt. His tone was clearly a little impatient. Go back and rest first. Tomorrow, I still have to think of a way to save Bai Ji and Qian. Also, I do owe Bai Yan a lot. If she is willing to listen obediently this time, in the future, I hope that you will treat her like your own daughter. Yurong laughed in a low voice. In Bai Zhengxiang's heart, his biological daughter was far less important than his personal interests. It was precisely because she understood this that she wanted to firmly grasp the power of the Bai family in her hands. I understand. She lowered her eyes and said in a gentle voice, it's getting late. I'll take my leave now. Master, you should rest early. After saying this, Yurong bowed. She slowly turned around and walked out of the hall. At that moment, her originally gentle smile suddenly turned cold. Bai Xiaochan. The thought of this name made her grit her teeth in hatred. As long as Ger became the Azure Emperor, the first person she would deal with would be this little bastard. As if recalling all that had happened tonight, Yurong took a deep breath. However, not only did she not suppress the hatred in her heart, it started to burn like a raging fire. She disappeared into the night without looking back. In the imperial palace, in the cold and cheerless palace, Ning Dai was no longer as noble as she used to be. She sat on a wooden chair and stared at the bright moonlight outside the window. Your Majesty. The old nanny walked to Ning Dai's side, her voice full of heartache. You haven't eaten today. Why don't you eat something first? Ning Dai looked at the porridge that the old maidservant brought to her, and a bitter smile appeared on her lips. I don't have an appetite. How could she, who had always lived a pampered life, be willing to eat such light porridge? But Yingluo. Nanny, Ning Dai bit her lips, His Majesty won't leave me alone, right? He's only temporarily angry and will soon let me out. The old woman sighed and comforted him gently, Niang, this time, we really made the wrong move. Instead, we were used by the crown princess. Ning Dai's body stiffened. Her dignified face was a little pale, and her hands, which were by her sides, were tightly clenched. Momo, what are you saying? This old servant has just gone to inquire about it? The Bai family had previously sought out the crown prince, hoping that the crown prince would make the decision to let Bai Ji enter the Azure Emperor's residence. However, he was rejected by the crown prince. The old lady's expression carried a hint of anger. Byruo must have seen that the crown prince's side was not working, so he used you, your majesty. Back then, it was not that Nangongyi had never thought of letting Baiji into the Azure Emperor's residence. However, Baiji had bullied a child in public, causing her to lose all her face and embarrass herself. Only then did Nangongyi cancel this plan. No matter how Nangongyi thought about it, he would never have thought that the Empress would directly issue an edict to order Dikang to marry Baiji. Chapter 126 126 The Vicious Byruo, 2. Ning Dai was not stupid, otherwise, she would not have been able to stay in the harem until now. Previously, she had only acted rashly because she had been blinded by Byruo and thought that Dikang would submit to the imperial power. Now that she heard the old nanny's words, she suddenly reacted. So she was used by Byruo. Byruo. Ning Dai tightly twisted her sleeves, her face contorted. I treated her well? Why does she want to use Bangong? Granny, go find His Majesty tomorrow and tell him that all of this was Byruo's idea. If she was unkind, then don't blame her for being unjust. Even if he died, he had to drag one of them down with him. So Imperial Mother isn't that stupid to the point of being beyond redemption. At this moment, a light laugh came from outside the door. Ning Dai's expression froze, and then she looked over with anger in her eyes. In an instant, under the moonlight, a pale white figure slowly walked over, as light as the spring breeze, with a smile. Byruo, you still dare to come and see this queen? Seeing the woman who had appeared in front of the door, Ning Dai flew into a rage. She suddenly stood up and stared at Byruo with resentful eyes. If it wasn't for Byruo, she wouldn't have been stripped of her position as the Empress and thrown into the cold palace. Mother, Byruo smiled and slowly walked in. Of course, daughter-in-law has to come. Otherwise, if you complain to His Majesty, wouldn't your good son know my true colors? You bastard! Ning Dai angrily pointed at Byruo. As expected, all of this was your scheme. Imperial Mother, I have no choice. Who asked my younger sister to marry Prince Kang? I could only let you pass down the imperial decree. Who knew that your position in His Majesty's heart could not even be compared to a prince of the opposite sex? Byruo's beautiful eyes hid daggers in her smile as she slowly approached Ning Dai. Empress, be careful. The old maidservant's expression changed, and she hurriedly pulled Ning Dai to her side. She warned in a hoarse voice, Crown Prince Consort, if you come any closer, I'll call for help. Giggle. Byruo covered her mouth and laughed, her voice as gentle as ever. Momo, you seem to have forgotten that this is the Cold Palace. Since it is the Cold Palace, there are no other unnecessary people. Even the patrolling guards have already reached the time for the exchange and would not have come so quickly. Ning Dai's face was deathly white. Even though she was the Empress, her talent was not good. In terms of strength, she was not even comparable to Byruo. If Byruo wanted to kill her, then she wouldn't be able to resist Wan. However, Zhen, Byruo paused and said with a faint smile, seeing that mother is Lin Er's grandmother, Ruo can give mother a choice. Do you want to hang yourself with 3 feet of white silk, or do you want me to help you? Byruo. Ning Dai's lips trembled. You vicious woman, you'll definitely die a terrible death. Mother, Ruo has no other choice. I can only be at ease if you die. Byruo placed the poisoned wine she had prepared on her 3-foot-long white silk and asked gently, I'll give you 2 choices. Poisonous wine and 3 feet of white silk. Ning Dai knew that she would not be able to escape death today. She looked at the poisonous wine and white silk in front of her and slowly closed her eyes. After a long time, she opened them again, her eyes filled with anger. Byruo, Bangong won't let you off even if I become a ghost. As soon as she finished speaking, she raised her palm and picked up the poisoned wine. Empress, don't. The old woman's heart trembled and she hurriedly shouted. However, Ning Dai ignored the old maidservant and poured the poisoned wine into her stomach. In an instant, she was in so much pain that her body twisted. Her face was pale and weak. She bit her lips tightly, and blood flowed from the side of her pale lips. Chapter 127 127 The Vicious by Ruo, 3. Empress. The old woman cried out in surprise. Just as she was about to step forward, a dagger suddenly stabbing right into her heart. Her old eyes were filled with hatred as she stared unwaveringly at Bai Ruo. Her expression seemed to be one of dying with grievances. Tomorrow, people will say that the Empress couldn't stand the cold treatment in the palace and committed suicide to escape punishment. Even the old nanny beside her was buried with her. Bai Ruo looked at Ning Dai, who was slowly falling down, and the corners of her lips rose. But don't worry, I will love the crown prince well and dote on Lin Er. You can die in peace. After taking one last look at Ning Dai, Bai Ruo slowly turned around. Her whole body was itchy again. She unconsciously frowned, but she forcibly resisted the urge to scratch her back. Not long after Bai Ruo left, Dikang's arrogant and domineering figure appeared out of thin air in the cold palace. Your Highness, the Empress seems to have died. The guard stood behind him respectfully. It seems like we're a little late. The guard was a little uneasy. This time, His Highness had come to the palace in person because the Empress's bestowment of marriage had made him angry and he did not intend to let her off easily. However, the Empress was already dead, so his anger naturally had nowhere to vent. Dikang's voice was cold and deep, his raised eyebrows coldly looking at the fallen Ning Dai. Take her to the Poison Valley. Poison Valley. The guard was stunned, but wasn't the Empress already dead? Did His Highness mean that Suanji's Empress could still be saved? Your Highness, please forgive this subordinate for speaking bluntly. When this subordinate investigated Miss Bai, this subordinate discovered that Miss Bai can refine pills. If the Empress is handed over to Miss Bai, she will be able to save Qian. When did this king say I was going to save her? Dikang's cold eyes swept over the guard and his face was expressionless. Tell the Poison Valley's Valley Master that this woman was sent by this prince to test for poison. It's fine as long as she's alive. The guard hurriedly lowered his head. As expected, those who offended His Highness would not have a good end. Your Royal Highness, please excuse me. The guard hesitated for a moment before he replied respectfully, just now, the Qian clan sent someone over to say that they have already used Your Royal Highness to clear Miss Bai's name. They are asking if Your Royal Highness can release the Bai clan? The corners of Dikang's lips curled into a cruel arc. Let the Qian family's old man cut off one of his arms, and I'll spare the Qian family. Delusional over his woman? That old man was courting death. Yes, Your Highness. The guard's head was lowered from the beginning to the end, not daring to raise his head to look directly at Dikang. Otherwise, the powerful pressure on the man's body would make him unable to breathe. After the report, the guard found that he had been shocked into a cold sweat. He hurriedly went forward to lift the Empress up and looked at the old nanny in the pool of blood. Your Highness, do you want to bring her along? He's already dead, there's no point in bringing him along. As soon as he finished speaking, Dikang no longer looked at the person on the ground. He flicked his sleeves and left. In the dark night, that head of silver hair was very dazzling and unparalleled in beauty. Bai Yan woke up from her sleep and stretched her back. Before she could get out of bed, the door was suddenly slammed open and Bai Xiao's tall figure appeared in front of her. Sister, something big has happened. Looking at the young man's handsome and fair face, Bai Yan raised her brows. What happened? The Empress has disappeared, and her personal maidservant has also died in the cold palace. The Empress went missing. When she heard this news, the first thing Bai Yan thought of was Dikang. However, even if that arrogant man wanted to deal with the Empress, he would not take her away. At most, he would let her be buried in the cold palace. I continued to write. Chapter 128. 128 True Family, 1. Her disappearance will have the imperial family investigate this matter. It has nothing to do with us. Bai Yan lazily got up. Xiao Er, go and get little Chen Er to prepare. I'll bring him to the Lan family later. The Lan family must have known about little Chen Er's existence after last night's incident, so she did not need to explain much. Sister, you finally decided to let Chen Er meet people. Bai Su's expression was very excited, even more so than the disappearance of the Empress. Bai Yan nodded slightly. Then I'll go find Chen Er and tell him the good news. What Bai Xiaochen hoped for the most was to get his family's approval. If he knew that he could return home now, he would definitely be very excited. Therefore, after saying this, Bai Xiao quickly left, leaving Bai Yan staring in the direction he disappeared in a daze. At this moment, Bai Xiaochen was cooped up in the Wang family's residence. He held a roasted pig's trotter in his hand, and his mouth was full of oil. How is it? Isn't my mother's cooking great? I even snatched this pig trotter from Xiaomi's mouth. His smug expression seemed to be showing off that he had an all-rounded mother. Bai Xiaochen, didn't you say that you wanted to leave? Little fatty Wang had a big piece of meat in his mouth, so his words were a little unclear. Bai Xiaochen pouted. Don't mention it. I was just about to leave this place when I was caught by the big bad guy. But fortunately, I don't have to hide any more in the future. He blinked his eyes and said in a mysterious tone, let me tell you a secret. I even went to find the bad woman who bullied my mother back then to take revenge. You won't leave just because I've said so? That's great. Little fatty Wang took another bite of the pig trotter and said excitedly, to be honest, I can't bear to part with you. Can't bear to leave him. Then who was the one who abandoned him for those jelly beans that day? The moment he thought of what happened yesterday, Bai Xiaokan's small eyes were filled with resentment. Suddenly, a call came from outside the door. Uncle is calling for me. Bai Xiaochen stood up from his chair. He wiped his dirty hands and turned his head to look at little fatty Wang and his sister behind him. He smiled innocently. Little fatty, little Tong, I'm very happy to know the two of you. In the future, we can be good friends for life. He didn't need to be sent back to the Sacred Institute, and he didn't need to leave his friends. There was no time that could be happier than Bai Xiaochen right now. Little fatty Wang blinked his eyes and looked in the direction that Bai Xiaochen had left in. He also felt happy for his little friend from the bottom of his heart. After leaving the Wang family, Bai Xiaochen saw the young man who was quietly standing by the side of the road waiting for him. He quickly ran over and bumped into the young man's embrace. He raised his head, and his cute and bright eyes blinked. Uncle, in the past, Chen Er only had mother and grandmaster by my side. Oh, there was also godfather and sister Chu. Now, I have many more relatives and friends. Chen Er is really happy. The pitiful Xiaomi had already been forgotten by Bai Xiaochen. Little Chen Er. Bai Xiao's heart ached. He gently rubbed Bai Xiaokan's head. In the future, the people around you will only increase. There won't be any less. Really? Bai Xiaokan's eyes were very bright, even brighter than the stars in the night sky. However, in Chen Er's heart, the most important thing is still mother. No one could compare. Bai Su laughed. This little guy was really his mother's heart. Chapter 129. 129 True Family, 2. Chen Er, go and prepare. Your mother will bring you to the Lan family later. He let go of the little one in his arms and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Bai Xiaochen bit his finger and was silent for a while. Uncle, What do great-grandfather and great-grandmother like? There's also maternal uncle and maternal aunt. Chen Er even heard that mother has 3 maternal cousins. When the time comes, Chen Er will have to prepare gifts for them. Chen Er, you're a junior, there's no need to prepare a gift. Bai Xiao patted Bai Xiaoqin's head, feeling a little amused as he gently consoled him. No, Chen Er must prepare a gift. Why don't Chen Er bear the pain and give the sweet beans to them? Those were mother's closest people, and she loved them as well. It was no big deal to give them some candy. After Bai Xiaoqian made his decision, he eagerly ran back to the old house to make preparations. Ever since last night, after Bai Xiaoqian caused such a huge commotion, the Lan family naturally knew of his existence. Old Madame Lan did not know where Bai Yan was and was unable to bring that little one into the residence. Therefore, she did not sleep for the entire night and was only thinking about that adorable little fellow. Fortunately, Bai Yan did not make her wait for too long and brought Bai Xiao and Bai Xiaoqian into the manor. The moment she saw Bai Xiaoqian, old Madame could not help but hug the little fellow in her arms and cry bitterly. Mother, Dongrulan smiled gently, can't you see that father is scowling? He talked about this child for the whole night. It's still not too late for you to cry after father has seen it. As expected, the old master was fuming at the side, but after hearing Dongrulan's words, his old face fell. What are you saying? When did I talk about it the whole night? In any case, he would never admit it. Bai Xiaoqian left old Madame's embrace. He ran over to old Master Lan and called out obediently, Great-grandfather, Chen Er wants a hug. The corners of Master Ian's mouth rose involuntarily, but when he thought of how many people were here, he immediately put down his smile and deliberately put on a straight face. You still want to hug at your age? Although he said that, old Master Lan carried Bai Xiaoqian up and let him sit on his lap. Bai Xiaoqian tugged at old Master Ian's beard and smiled innocently. Great-grandfather, Chen Er likes you so much. Mother has been talking about you every day for all these years. Oh, old Master Lan glanced at Bai Yan before looking at Bai Xiaoqian. What did your mother say about me? Are you scolding me for not caring about her all these years? No way. Mother said that great-grandfather was the greatest person and that great-grandfather was the person she idolized the most. However, mother was too ashamed to come to the Lan family. She hoped that great-grandfather wouldn't blame her. She also said that she would stay in the Lan family from now on and never leave. The corners of Bai Yan's lips twitched a few times. When had she ever said these words? Ever since she had transmigrated, she had a deeper impression of Bai Xiao. It was only after she returned that she gradually learned about the Lan family. However, it was very obvious that Bai Xiaoqin's words made old Master Ian's heart burst with joy, and he no longer had that stern old face. Your mother has been talking about this old man? Quickly tell great-grandfather, what else did your mother say? Looking at old Master Ian's happy and smiling expression, Bai Yan's heart felt a little sour. This was family love. Just a word of nagging was enough to make him happy. Bai Xiaoqian scratched his head. There's still a lot to say. Chen Er can't remember clearly for a while. However, since Ying Luo came to the Lan family this time, mother asked Chen Er to prepare some meeting gifts. Chapter 130. 130 Pill Distribution Grand Meeting. Chen Er even prepared a gift. Old Madame Lan was a little surprised as she looked at Bai Yan with a reproachful look. You child, it's fine that you brought little Chen Er, but why did you bring a gift? Maternal grandmother, this gift has a special meaning. It just so happens that the Lan family needs it. Bai Yan smiled slightly. Chen Er, take out the gift. Bai Xiaoqian chuckled as he left old Master Ian's embrace. He took out a few porcelain bottles from his lapels and obediently handed them to Bai Yan. Bai Yan took out a bottle of medicinal pills from it and her eyes swept towards Lan Yun, who was standing quietly by the side. Why are you so quiet today? The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up as she asked. Hearing Bai Yan's voice, Lan Yun returned to her senses and her expression was sneaky. I went to the criminal investigation department before and Prince Kang allowed me to go in to visit him. Therefore, I went to take a look at Bai Ji. She's living a miserable life in the criminal investigation department. I was just thinking how I should add oil to the fire. Clearly, Yun Ian's hatred for Bai Ji had long since seeped deep into her bones. Especially last night when he learned that Yu Rong actually wanted to sell Bai Yan back then. He even almost set fire to Bai Xiao Chen. How could she not go and find trouble with Bai Ji? You don't have to care about Bai Ji first. Bai Yan handed a bottle of pills to Lan Yun. This is a second-grade true energy pill. I can see that your strength has already reached the bottleneck of the peak of the golden class. With the help of this true energy pill, you can charge into the lower class. Yun Ian's small face cracked a little. She raised her small face in shock. This Kazaya is a medicinal pill? Is it for me? These days, Yun Lan had indeed reached a bottleneck. Master Lan had also planned to buy a second-grade true energy pill for her to break through in the next few days, but he didn't expect Bai Yan to send him charcoal in the middle of a snowy day. Bai Yan ignored Lan Yun and turned her gaze to her eldest cousin brother, Lan Shaoling, and Lan Shaogan. She curled her lips slightly. My two cousins have both reached the Earth class, so a second-grade pill is useless to you. I've prepared a third-grade Great Chi pill for you. Since you are not at a bottleneck, the Great Chi pill can't help you break through directly, so you can only take it slowly. This Bayan. The two older cousins were stunned. They looked at the porcelain bottle that Bai Yan had sent over and for a moment, they did not dare to take it. Each bottle contains more than 10 Great Chi pills, enough for you to use for a while. Lan Shaoling and Lan Shaogan looked at each other hesitantly. These pills were too precious. How could they take her things? Uncle. Bai Xiaochen smiled innocently. You guys should quickly take these jelly beans. At most, Chen will have to eat less snacks for a period of time. Yun Lan raised her hand and pinched Bai Xiaoken's cute face. What does it have to do with you and your mother giving us the pills and you eating less snacks for a period of time? Bai Xiaochen tilted his head. Because these are Chen Er's snacks. Xiaomi often fights with me to eat them. The corner of Yun Ian's mouth twitched. So medicinal pills that were incomparably precious in the eyes of the world were merely snacks to Bai Xiaochen. This Kazaya was too extravagant. Yan Master Lan frowned. I know that you have a fourth-grade pill master as your master, but won't your master blame you for taking out so many pills to give to us Suanji? Old Master Lan had never thought that Bai Yan herself was a powerful alchemist. It was really because Bai Yan had not returned to the Bai family previously and had only left for 6 years. During these 6 years, she still had to take care of her child. Even if she had this talent, she would at most be a second grade. Part 3 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.